Happy spring, Gaming Outsiders. Okay, maybe it's fake spring, but I'll take it. On this week's episode, Zach joins me in answering questions from all of you. Most of them are video game related. In news, there's a God of War TV series to discuss, and a lot more. We finally hear Zach's impressions of Elden Ring. I checked out Infernax on Game Pass, as well as Puzzle Quest 3. And also, Sean stops by to talk about music, Racer Ultimate, and Gravity Chase. This is The Gaming Outsider. Greetings, programs, and welcome to episode 388 of The Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community. It's Tuesday, March 8th. I'm your host, Scott Clark, and joining me is my good friend, Mr. Zach Parkerson. What's up, man?
It's true. I am back. I'm done moving.
You're done moving?
Mostly.
I did not let anybody know that's why you were gone. I just said you had some personal things to attend to last week. So.
Well, there you go. Well, in my little write-in live from the crime scene message, it indicated that I was moving.
Oh, what are you talking about? I didn't read that.
I listen to the show. You think I wouldn't listen to my own show here? To make sure you guys are doing it right when I'm not here.
Oh, yeah. It was a. Did you? What's it like listening to a show that you're on and you're not there? I haven't done that in a while.
All the parts with you are great.
Alrighty then, man. But it's good to chat with you again. I've missed talking with you. I know we still do texts and stuff like that, but we don't get into super in depth gaming conversations. So.
Well, it's so funny being like gamer buddies, but we can't talk about games ever.
Right, because we have to save it for the show.
Right.
How many times have we started a conversation? I'm like, dude, we gotta hold off. We gotta
it's ridiculous.
Make it seem like it's organic when we actually record.
Yeah,
I
will say if anything sounds weird or if the audio is strange or anything to the listeners, I'm still figuring it out. Okay. in the new setup.
You do look comfy. You're sitting on a couch, so
Yeah, my bum is taken care of.
Nice. I like
nice.
it.
I used to sit in my old apartment, my old setup. I was sitting on the floor, so this is a big improvement.
You were sitting on the floor and all that when we were recording before.
Yeah, it's the only way I had it set up. I didn't have a desk. I got a desk.
I had no idea you were sitting on the floor this whole time. That's hilarious. Anyway.
Yeah, man, it was less than ideal.
Little inside baseball. But it's been a couple weeks since you've been here to tell us what you've been playing. Anything you've been catching up on?
Yeah, so during the moving progress, because I didn't have my internet and PlayStation set up, and a Dark Souls game without internet is just weird. So I was playing a lot of Vagrant Story.
Vagrant Story? Like
the PS1 game?
Yeah, what, like on a PSP or a Vita?
Yeah, on the Vita, of course.
Yeah.
And mostly because I tried to get into Final Fantasy Tactics a while ago,
mm-hmm.
but it was just so mechanically dense that I couldn't do it. But this is the same director.
Oh, okay.
And I guess it's in the same universe, which I had no idea of.
Mm-hmm.
So I was checking it out, and it's super cool, man.
Really?
First of all, for PS1, the graphics are crazy. Like, the faces are very distinguished.
Interesting. That's almost my worry going back to PS1, because most of those games do not hold up graphically.
What struck me the most is the cutscenes.
Uh-huh.
Even though they're not voiced, they all just have word balloons or whatever. The way the camera moves is like an indie movie. Like, they're doing weird camera shots and tricks that I wouldn't even expect in a game today, let alone a PS1 game.
Huh. Interesting.
It's like tracking shots and interesting angles and just really, really interesting camera work. And then the mechanics are very dense. It's almost Witcher-esque in that you need to have different weapons for every enemy and stuff. It's super cool, actually.
And this is a JRPG or action RPG?
It is. It's a little bit like you could think of the Parasite Eve attack sphere bubble thing.
Yeah. Okay.
But with melee combat, and it's a little bit like that.
Nice.
It's super cool. It's interesting because you can attack different parts of enemy limbs. Like if you attack their weapon hand, they'll do less damage during the fight. If you attack their legs, they have less, movement range and stuff. There's a lot going on. It's pretty dense, but I'm enjoying it.
That's one I always appreciated the box art for, but never actually played it. Which is
gorgeous box art. I agree.
A lot of games fall into that category for me. Really like the box. Didn't play it.
Very pretty box.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just and the writing is pretty phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Something I noticed in my short time of Final Fantasy Tactics as well is Matsuno, the director. He's very pithy, very to the point. Like, characters exchange very minimal dialogue, but all the emotion and point is there. It's really refreshing to see, especially in JRPGs, because they can tend to get a little wordy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. I don't know. If anybody wants to play this 2000 banger, get on it.
It's so crazy to think that PlayStation 1 was in the 2000s. I know that it came out in the late 90s, but still, I don't know. The different decade, just I have trouble separating those two in my mind. I don't think of PlayStation 1 as in the 2000s.
Well, I don't think there are a lot of relevant games coming out then.
Right,
that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
The PS2 was around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also checked out the Babylon's Fall demo.
Okay.
Which you had to have heard about Babylon's Fall, right?
I have. I've heard some not so good things about it. Just from the random Twitter post that Twitter thinks I need to see.
yes, it does do that. Yeah, it's sitting at like a 42 on Metacritic, I think.
Ew.
Which is not good. I think it makes it the worst reviewed PS5 game.
Oh, this is a PS5 exclusive?
It's a PlayStation exclusive right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's Platinum Games doing a live service game. I don't know what the hell is wrong with this game. It just feels off, man. It's really... Because you know me, I like Platinum Games.
Yeah, you adore them.
But this is like a slow and dull combat system.
That doesn't sound like Platinum at all.
No, it feels like a Platinum game played out at third speed. Like it's not kinetic the way their action games are. It's really jarring.
Okay.
And I guess I don't hate it. But it's also like I had the expectations going in that it was going to be an absolute dumpster fire.
Right.
And it's not that. It's got this interesting setup where you have a Gideon coffin on your back. You're a prisoner of war, and they put this Gideon coffin on you, which kills 90% of people it's attached to, but the 10% that live basically get like superpowers.
What's a Gideon coffin?
It's basically it's a backpack that lets you carry 4 weapons.
Oh, okay.
But it has these weird like tendrils and stuff. It looks pretty cool. And then you're basically being a prisoner of war who's being sent up this Babylon's tower to try to find out what's at top, essentially. So it's a pretty interesting setup, but the combat, it's really weird. So if you try to solo, don't solo at all. It's so frustrating because all the enemies have enough health for 4 people to be teaming up.
So that doesn't do the Borderlands thing where like it kind of levels based on how many people are in the party?
No. And isn't that mind-boggling?
Yeah.
That's such an obvious thing.
It should be.
but I play the first level with solo, and it just took forever. Like these enemies weren't hard or anything; they just had so much health. And then I replayed it with a team of 3, and we were just cruising through it. I'm like, oh, the game is explicitly designed for co-op.
Gotcha.
It has no interest in you being a solo player. But honestly, like when you had the whole team there, it was actually pretty fun.
I was not expecting that.
Like, okay, kind of fun. It's much better. It's just fun watching everybody like rip off these special attacks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's just weird that everybody's moving so slowly in a Platinum game.
Is it because you are so familiar with Platinum games and you were expecting a fast kinetic game?
Well, if you think about all of their games.
No, I know, but I mean, you're going to talk about Elden Ring later, and that's not a fast and frenetic game, at least from what I've seen.
Right. No, but that's what I want out of Platinum. But as the game is, I think it is fine. It's not any more offensive to me than any other live service game. Like, it doesn't feel that different from Destiny. Like, because a lot of people are complaining about the mission structures and stuff, and it feels very much like one of those games. You go into a room, you kill all the people in the room, you go to the next room.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what these games are.
It's all the rage.
And you're just playing for the loot and stuff. It's not that different in that way. I mean, honestly, the story kind of intrigued me, and I think if it was free to play, I would keep playing it. Mm-hmm. But it's $60 is outrageous in this market to ask for a live service melee combat game. Because boy, oh boy, doesn't want you to spend money on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, you load past the opening cutscene and it's like, hey, man, you want to buy this battle pass?
No.
Like, no, I don't even know what the game is.
Now, you're just playing the demo, though, right?
Yeah, so the demo is very confusing. It has you have to log in with the Square Enix ID, you have to create a Babylon's Fall account, and then your character carries over. So really, it just artificially gates you at some kind of point.
Right.
So it's basically, I guess it's just like a free to start $60 to keep playing.
I was going to say,
sales pitch.
Why are they like pitching a battle pass if you don't even own the game yet?
Yeah, yes, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. Because when I was messing around the premium currency shop, they sure would let me buy currency.
Could you imagine if you bought this currency and stuff and then decided I don't want to buy the game? That feels kind of scummy.
Yes, there's a lot of scumminess happening here.
Okay.
It's definitely a scummy game. I think the armor and stuff all looks cool.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I really feel like the biggest mistake is charging $60.
This should be a free-to-play or budget title game?
Yes. And which is weird to say, like, what do I know about video game marketing? But like in this market where, Genshin Impact is free, Final Fantasy 14 is free to start for the first 60 hours or 60 levels or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Fortnite's out there. Like, if you want to compete with one of these games, you can't be charging $60.
And then expect microtransactions on top of it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You already tried that with Avengers, and that was the biggest property in the world.
Yep. Didn't work there.
That didn't. Yeah. So why would you think it was going to work with Babylon's Fall?
No idea.
It's very strange. Try the demo. I think you would like it more than you think, dear listener.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be frustrating because you're going to hit the end of the demo, and then you're just going to be like, now I got to pay $60. Want to keep playing though?
That's a weird way to go.
Yes, it's a strange way to market your game.
I mean, I'm all about demos. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like demos for a game as a service type game that has a price tag on it is odd.
Especially when, like, if you go to the shop, you have to scroll through the premium shop to get to the earnable currency shop. Like, it's everywhere. So if I'm expecting that stuff in my face, I'm expecting my exchange to you, the publisher, is that, like, I didn't have to pay to get in here.
Right. Interesting. As for me, I am still plugging away at Horizon Forbidden West, which it's kind of sad that this game just feels completely overshadowed by the presence of Elden Ring at this point, because...
Yeah, in seemingly all avenues.
I mean, that's all I see on social media. I know we're going to talk about Elden Ring later, but, and I've had my issues with Horizon Forbidden West, for sure, but it just feels like nobody wants to talk about it anymore, and I feel like a lot of people are going to miss out on a pretty solid game. Which is funny if you think about it, because it happened with Horizon Zero Dawn as well, because Breath of the Wild came out like right afterwards, and then nobody was talking about Horizon anymore. They need to work on their launch windows or something.
Yeah, dodge the world change. Well, in their defense, when they had the release date, it was after Elden Ring. But Elden Ring got pushed back by a month there at the last minute.
Mm-hmm. So what do you do at that point? Like, move your game up a month? You know what I mean? Like,
right? Yeah. There's no winning there.
There's no winning at all. But I am still really enjoying it. Any of the graphical pop-in stuff that I talked about when I first played it is gone. I haven't seen a single issue with that since I started playing it. So,
well, you can't say that about Elden Ring.
Oh, really? The story is getting genuinely more and more interesting. There's a main hub that you eventually get to, and there are, at this point in where I am in the game, there are 3 large tasks that you need to complete. And I have no idea if that makes the end game. I kind of feel like it wouldn't, because I've done 2 of them, and I have 1 more of these main tasks to complete, and I still have a very large portion of the map that I have yet even uncovered the Fog of War. So I feel like there's going to be more coming at that point. But I wish I could talk to you about the story, Zach, because they went in a direction that I was not expecting. I was like, how do you come off of Zero Dawn and continue that story? And they've done a really good job of making that interesting. So
you might have to text about that.
What, you want me to tell you the story? Yeah.
I don't. If I play, it's like be for a while. Right. I mean, honestly, spoilers might just sell me more on the game.
Possibly. I still hold firm to the idea that Aloy is the least interesting character in this world. She just
the Harry Potter effect.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Funny you say that. I just finished Half-Blood Prince this past week, so I got
the best book.
Well, that was my favorite. I think it was really good.
That's my favorite book. Yeah, Kindred Spirits.
Yeah. That was really good. But what was I going to talk about? I'm still hating the skill tree. You know me. I normally love skill trees. I have maxed out 1 complete skill tree, and I don't know, maybe it is a sign of a good skill tree that, like, it's not anything that I just, like, truly notice, but I'm keeping up with the enemies just fine, if that makes sense. So, but it's not anything egregious. I mean, I'm getting some extra bonus attacks, but I never use them. I just use my bow, and when I'm in close combat, use my spear for melee attack. I don't know.
Right. Which is how you play Horizon. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the combat is very, very similar to the last game, so don't expect it to get a lot more in depth. I have given up on trying to do everything in this game because this map is huge.
That's good for your mental health.
It really is. I did the whole first area, like just did everything that I possibly could, but like I mentioned before, I still couldn't access everything, and I still can't access everything in that beginning opening area because there's still some ability that I do not acquire in order to be able to access everywhere, which is frustrating because I don't want to go back and hunt it. You know what I mean? That just drives me crazy.
Right.
But I am still doing all the side quests, just because some of those stories are genuinely interesting, and you know how I like to play, where I like to level up and feel like a god by the end of the game, or at least keep up with the levels, because I hate going in feeling like I have to really struggle to fight these bosses and stuff. The enemy designs, man, are really cool. There's a giant viper you fight at the beginning of the game that's all like machine.
Okay.
It's one of the opening like big enemies that you fight. It's more like an intro boss, where they're not like super difficult, but they're just like kind of showing off.
Right. It feels cool.
Yeah. And you wind up fighting them again later on, but the machines just look awesome. They've somehow looked cooler than even the last game, so that's going good. Looking forward to diving back into it, and I'm just kind of barreling through just the side quests and the main quests. I haven't touched a whole lot of the ancillary stuff, like the pit fighting and the little board game that the game gives you. I just don't have any interest in doing that.
How about that?
Yeah, so there's a ton.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on in Forbidden West.
There's a lot of stuff I haven't even mentioned. There are these. There are 10 drones in the game that are actually kind of fun. They've done unique ways to kind of make you do traversal. So like there are these drones that fly in a set pattern, and it's all about finding the one spot on a mountain that is close enough that you can jump off of it and grab it and force it to the ground so that you can upload it. And you have to take these 10 things to a place that I won't tell you. But it's pretty cool. Remember the tall necks in the first game, where it was kind of like the towers from like any Ubisoft game or whatever?
Except it's a freaking robot dinosaur.
Right. But those have gotten a lot better in this game too. They are there's always like a unique way to take them down that is completely different from the one previous. So like the first one that I came across was just, find the high point and like jump down on top of it, which is pretty simple. But then you'll come across one where there are all these random ballistas stationed like all around in a circle, and you can tell that some of the indigenous people in the Forbidden West had tried to take it down with these anchors. And you come to find out that this particular tall neck is damaged in some way. So in order to be able to use the tall neck, you have to reboot it. And the only way you can reboot it is to, use these ballistas to fire these anchors to basically bring it down to the ground so that you can just walk on top of it, reboot it, remove the ballistas, and then let it go back to normal. But it's just like a different way of doing it. And
well, that makes revealing the map icons more fun.
That too, yeah, because then it feels like you earned it a little more than just following an icon on a map and making it to the top of a tower. I mean, I know some of the ones in Ubisoft did, you had to kind of figure it out, but it was always just a different way to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, where do I grapple onto this tower? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I mean, by the later Assassin's Creed, it really was just point your character up because they can climb anything.
Right. Yeah.
Like the first Assassin's Creed, it was like puzzly to get to the viewpoints.
To a fault at some point because it started getting annoying.
Yeah.
But, it's still a great game. I just kind of feel bad for the devs on this one because like nobody's talking about it.
Well, it must be weird to be like a Horizon fan right now because there's this monumental moment and no one's talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's all the stranger because Horizon will probably end up selling better.
Because Elden Ring is such a niche game.
Well, they used to be anyway, but
right.
It's just Horizon has mainstream appeal, right? The 20 million copies sold of the first game, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Right. Crazy. But yeah, Horizon Forbidden West, I have no idea how long it's going to take me to finish it. I will say that I'm at about level 27, and CB said that he beat it at level 39, but I have to venture that he didn't do a ton of the side quests like I am, so I imagine it's going to be a little bit longer for me, which also tells me I probably got a little bit longer to go than those 3 main things I was talking about. But
I don't know how he could have beaten it without mostly mainlining it.
I mean, stranger things have happened.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, well, let's take a break and go over to talk about the week's news. Couple new trailers to talk about. We got one for Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet, which is coming to Switch in late 2022. Also a trailer for House of the Dead Remake, which includes House of the Dead and House of the Dead 2, coming to Switch on April 7th. Some other news to talk about. Housemarque is developing a new IP. Prime Video is in early negotiations for a God of War series. We're finally getting more info on the Dead Space remake this week. And finally, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga will be getting Mandalorian and Rogue One DLC, among some other things. Zach, you've been gone for a little while. I'm going to give you the honor of picking our first news story to discuss.
You know, I guess the most interesting thing to me would just be the God of War series. Mm-hmm. You know, PlayStation's out here making moves, man. This, Twisted Metal, Last of Us, Uncharted, they are not messing around. They are using their property. They want that PlayStation Studios logo popping up everywhere.
Yeah, remember I talked about when I went to see Uncharted, or I think we talked about it in our spoiler cast, where they got like their version of the Marvel page flip thing at the beginning of Marvel movies.
It was a pretty cool PlayStation logo.
It was awesome. And the difference here is not comparing to Marvel, but the difference here with other video game movies is that most of these are stories that I'm genuinely interested in. You know, we always get movie adaptations of stuff that didn't interest me personally, like Warcraft, which I've never played World of Warcraft, so I don't have a whole. Did you watch
the movie though?
I didn't. I heard it was pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It has some interesting twists and turns.
Yeah. You don't have to know anything about.
I don't know anything.
Oh, okay. All right. I meant to go look that one up because I've not watched it, but this is wasn't this one of the things we were talking about? Possibly The Rock was talking about when he was talking about playing some iconic video game thing.
Oh, right. Because, it's a very popular fan casting for Kratos as Dwayne Johnson.
Right, but he made it sound like that was a film, whatever he was attached to, and this is a TV series, so...
I'm surprised whatever he was talking about has not been announced yet.
I know, because he kind of just came out right and said, yeah, this is happening.
Yeah, making a video game movie.
And somebody probably knocked on his door or shot him a text and said, shut up.
Well, he was in Rampage. What's the other old Midway classic he could be in, right? Anyway.
Midway? I mean, he was in Doom.
Yeah, he wasn't.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, I was thinking of something in that ilk of Rampage.
Oh, Midway?
Because he was...
trying to think.
That was a Midway game, right?
Was Rampage Midway? I'm not really good at if CB were here, he would be like...
Maybe he'll be in the new Robotron movie.
I've never heard it pronounced Robotron. I always pronounce it Robotron.
Oh, maybe you're right. I don't know. I've always said Robotron.
That's interesting. We have a couple of those where we've always said things differently, but
yeah. Anyway, back to God of War.
Yeah.
Do we know if this would be? Do you think they pick up the Norse stuff, or do you think they would start with the Greek stuff?
Man, I know that the Norse stuff is hot right now because of the games and everything. Right. I would rather them go back to Greek.
I agree, because as interesting as Kratos is in that reboot or whatever, like that first game's story, when you find out, about how he became the Ghost of Sparta,
right,
is pretty good stuff, man.
And a lot of people don't know that twist, and I mean, a lot,
right,
people that would be watching this series for the first time just out of curiosity, and it would be fun to see that revealed.
Yes, and I get the modern reboot is very much like of the modern style of storytelling, especially sad dad trope in full effect. But I feel like Kratos, it just wouldn't have hit the same way if I hadn't played those other games.
I think I agree with you. Yeah. And the other thing that worries me about this is, I know they've got a lot of liberties with things, on Netflix and Prime Video and all that kind of stuff, but this thing needs to be gory.
Yes. I'm sure it will be.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be like Mortal Kombat.
The Boys is pretty darn gory.
Huh?
The Boys is pretty darn gory. That's a Prime show.
That's true. But I feel like with The Boys, it's done for shock effect more than...
Right, when two people are banging and then they also crush a homeless man to death or whatever.
Yeah. That That show's so messed up.
That show's great.
Have you ever watched The Expanse?
No, I have not, and I feel like I should because everyone loves The Expanse.
I'm in the same boat as you, but the creators and executive producers of that show are going to be working on this one. They also share an Oscar nomination for writing Children of Men, which
that movie's great.
is a great movie. And they also co-wrote the script for Iron Man. So
okay,
that's
also a great movie.
Pretty good team. And they've also got the executive producer and showrunner for Wheel of Time, which a lot of people have had not so nice things to say about that.
Right, very mixed reception, that one.
Yeah, I don't really know. I have not read Wheel of Time, so I feel like I'd rather just read the books than...
Yeah, nor I. I mean, I know the series was finished by Brandon Sanderson.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because the original author died.
Robert Jordan died?
Finish it. Yeah.
I did not know that. Interesting.
And then Brandon Sanderson was chosen to finish, I think, the last 2 or 3 books.
Interesting. I did not know that. Did he do it justice, or have you read the series?
I don't. That's really all I know about the series is because Brandon Sanderson was attached in some way.
Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot of super interesting things to talk about, but I'm excited about hearing more about Dead Space. This is kind of a non-story, but there's just
that's why that's really honestly the other stories are such non-stories that I was like, yeah, we got to talk about this.
It was a light week, but I wanted to make sure people were aware and had a link or knew to look for a link on March 11th at noon Central Standard Time, because it sounds like it's going to be like a developer type thing where they're going to be talking about the development of the game, which is interesting because it's a remake. So that tells me that it's going to be a Resident Evil 2 style remake, not necessarily like just an up-resed one.
I'm still betting that the Isaac talking is going to happen on the first game.
You're probably right, but I kind of hope not.
I mean,
you don't like mute characters.
I do not. Speaking of Resident Evil, as Shinji Mikami would always say, a character who doesn't talk has no character at all.
Look at you. The other thing I wanted to bring up was this Lego Star Wars thing. Already being announced that there's going to be DLC, and I wanted to bring this up because I have a major question that I don't understand, because the story I read said that there's going to be 7 DLC packs and all 7 DLC packs, which is nuts.
Right.
You can purchase them individually or as a season pass, but the part that I question is one of these packs is called the Classic Characters Pack, which includes familiar characters like Luke, Han, and Leia. Does that mean you can't play as Luke, Han, and Leia in the main regular game?
No, because that would make no sense, right? Because you could start at any trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's a very confusing description. Unless there's some kind of weird free play restriction with those characters, or maybe this lets you unlock them early so you don't have to beat their movies, maybe? I don't know. It's a very confusing description. I assume it just is alternate costumes for them.
Okay, that would make sense, I guess.
Because no, you're not going to make a game called the Skywalker Saga and you have to pay extra to play as Han, Luke, and Leia.
Yeah.
I would just break the disc in half.
Yeah. Just doesn't make any sense. I don't know if this is confirmed, but I saw a video, I don't know if you saw this, that said they're adding a mouth noise mode to the Skywalker Saga.
Yeah, mumble mode, yeah.
No, not, well, I don't know about mumble mode. Maybe it's included in mumble mode, but where the lightsabers and the blasters make pew pew noises. Like it's actually somebody going pew 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 or zoom zoom. Like it doesn't make the actual noise. It actually makes somebody making those noises, which I need to play that immediately. And that kind of solidified my purchase of that game.
I was gonna say that sounds like a cute mode I'll never use.
I would do it for a little while.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you would. I'm just saying for me.
I would definitely.
I think it's kind of sucks if you're solo.
If you're solo, as in by yourself, or Han? I don't know.
Solo a Star Wars story. Does Mandalorian and Rogue One, the other live action stuff, get DLC and you don't?
No, they said Solo's getting stuff too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's 7. These are just the ones I mentioned. Solo's getting something.
Oh, okay.
And then the other 4 are like character packs or whatever.
Right.
Like you get like the dark stormtroopers and stuff like that, which they'll sell.
Hopefully one of them is a Video Game Heroes pack, and then I can play as Cal Kestis.
I'd have to go back to the article. I don't believe that's the case. I think they're doing,
that would be fun.
Like even with Mandalorian, that you get to play as, am I pronouncing it correctly? Ahsoka? Am I pronouncing that
Yeah,
right?
so Ahsoka Tano, yeah.
Yeah. So I think she's like, but it's the one from Mandalorian, which I know they're the same
Right.
character, but might look a little bit different. So
Yeah, her head tails are a different length, I guess, is a big difference.
is that? Yeah. Still haven't watched the series, so. All right.
Mandalorian?
Well, like I said, it was a light news week, so let's go ahead and jump into our next segment here. And want to remind everybody that we are an independently funded podcast, and we'd like to get your support through our Patreon if you are so willing. Obviously, the show is free, but if you'd like some bonus content and like to help us out, you can do so, and we'll give you some rewards. If you contribute at the $3 per month level, we'll give you one bonus episode per month. And if you contribute at the $2 a month level, we'll give you 2 episodes per month. And as of right now, we've got 3 of them in the hopper, 1 yet to be recorded. But we sat down with Stoy Jovic from the EXP cast to talk about desert island games, games that you'd like to be stuck on a deserted island for all of eternity. We did a Retro Outsider episode on Star Fox Adventures on GameCube, which has been a long time in the making. I know Zach loves that game.
It's great.
Zach and I sat down and did a spoiler cast for the Uncharted film. Really enjoyed that discussion. That was a lot better than I thought. And then Zach, CB, and Christina will be recording a Break the Seal episode for Halo, because Christy has played through the first 5 games pretty recently, and we're going to get her impressions on that. But if any of those episodes or any of our past episodes, legacy episodes, games that aren't for us, Retro Outsider episodes, they're all available with your subscription, including the entire back catalog. You can check it out over at patreon.com/thegocast, and we really do appreciate the support if you can swing it. Thanks so much. With that, let's go ahead and jump into the newer games that we've actually been playing. All right, man, I had to do this for you last week, and I don't think I did it near justice that you did. So why don't you talk to us about the games that are coming out for purchase this week?
Wow, that's a tall order now. Papercraft RPG Time The Legend of Right comes to Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, PC, iOS, and Android March 9th. Isometric Racer Splash Cars comes to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch March 9th. Puzzler Time Loader comes to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch March 10th. Ashwalkers is a deeply depressing looking walking simulator kind of game coming to Nintendo Switch March 10th. The Last Cube is a interesting little platforming game, but you play as a cube. It looks very interesting. It's almost like one of all those marble puzzle platformers that people make.
Marble puzzle platformers. You say play as a cube, and I think Thomas was alone, so I'm kind of intrigued.
No, more like you're an actual it's a 3D platformer, but you're a box.
Oh, all right.
Anyway, coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC March 10th. Boss Battler Aztec Forgotten Gods comes to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Switch, and PC March 10th. Kart Racer that nobody asked for, Chocobo GP, coming to Nintendo Switch March 10th. That is supposed to be actually pretty fun.
Okay.
Submerged Hidden Depths, sequel to the, I think, 2015 adventure game.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC March 10th, and no longer a Stadia exclusive. The latest in the relaxation zen genre comes Workshop Simulator, coming to PS4, Xbox One, and PC March 10th. Hip little game, Young Souls, coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC March 10th. And then finally, the return of wrestling with WWE 2K22, coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC March 10th. Scott, of this list, what intrigues you?
Submerged Hidden Depths is definitely the one that's on my radar, mostly because that's a sequel to another game, Submerged, which, fun fact, was the first review copy that I was able to procure as the Gaming Outsider. So that game kind of has a special place in my heart, even though I did not write the review myself. One of my teammates did, but that was the first one that what's the right word? Landed?
Yeah, I guess one of the first fish you caught.
Yes. And so it was like my first feather in my cap, as it were. And it was an interesting game. It was a clever world, and I'd like to see what they do with it. So yeah, Submerged Hidden Depths is one on my radar, but it might be a while because I'm kind of knee deep in a lot of stuff.
Right.
How about you?
Yeah, I think, honestly, Aztec is somewhat intrigues me, but I can't figure out if it is just a boss battler or if it's a platformer with a focus on boss battling, because it looks like it's just a series of boss battles.
Is that the one with the guy with a giant, like, gloved hand?
Yeah.
That punches stuff? Yeah.
But I think, honestly, I think the game that intrigues me the most is probably Chocobo GP.
Yeah.
Just because it came out of nowhere. and it kind of intrigues me. Like, what is this game? Why is Square Enix loading their first quarter so heavily? You know?
Well, I mean, is it their first quarter or is it the end of their fiscal year?
I mean, I guess that could also be true, but it's just they're putting in a lot of games.
It's true. All right. It is time, man. I am eagerly anticipating to hear you talk about Elden Ring. I was bummed that we couldn't have you on last week because, boy, everybody is talking about this dang game, and I'm apparently the only one on the planet that isn't. Even though I've got it downloaded or I've got it installed on my Xbox right now, I'm a little scared to try it out. So, is this as good as everybody is saying it is?
So it's weird going into a game when everybody has decided it's the third best game ever made or whatever. Because you're immediately just like, you get into impress me mode. Yeah. If that makes sense. But no, I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's just, I'm surprised at the response because, Scott, it is shockingly just Dark Souls, but open world.
Yeah.
Almost to a surprising degree.
All right.
It's just Dark Souls. So I'm surprised at the reception, but I love these games and I love this developer, so it's exactly what I wanted. It is, man, it's hard to know where to start.
Well, let me ask you this, because I want to kind of ask you, based on what you just said, it's open world Dark Souls. And again, this is coming from a guy that is not familiar with this series. I'm just asking this based on what people have told me about the different games in the series. But I was told that Dark Souls, in comparison to the other games, or maybe it was Demon Souls. One of them was a very defensive game, where you're constantly on the defensive, and one was like more offensive. Am I mixing those up? Which one was which?
No, so Dark Souls and Demon Souls, they give you shields, and the shields can take a lot of the damage. In fact, I think most incoming damage will be converted to stamina degradation.
Right.
So yeah, the shields are a very good defensive option. But the beauty of these series is that they're so malleable to your build. Like, I really didn't use a shield very much in Dark Souls. I did in Demon Souls because it felt like it was a little more shield dependent, but you can kind of pick your way to play because your dodge roll has so many invincibility frames that it is perfectly acceptable to just not block things.
Gotcha.
And Bloodborne didn't have a shield at all, so it was a much more aggressive game in that way, and you get your lost health back by attacking an enemy right away and stuff, and it was just that game was a lot more about being aggressive. Elden Ring, I guess, you make a good point though, because Elden Ring you still do take damage if you bring up a shield. It's just reduced, which is definitely different. And it led to me. I just abandoned shields altogether. I'm using dual daggers.
Nice. What class did you choose?
I already don't remember.
Oh wow. Okay.
Starting classes are so meaningless in these games because you could put stats into everything.
Oh, okay.
So different classes just dictates your starting stats basically.
Gotcha. That's interesting because there was a whole discussion on our Discord about which character to start with, and somebody re-rolled a character because they didn't like the way it was going, and so I thought the character creation that was actually stressing me out, thinking about going into a game and trying to pick which class is the right class.
Oh, I mean, I just pick whichever one looks coolest.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I think it was like a nomadic warrior. They look like they were straight out of Prince of Persia, and that's why I picked them.
Oh, okay.
It started with dual katanas, but you also got a shield. But anyway, I could understand re-rolling if you like go into a strength build and you put a bunch of your XP, your runes into strength, and then you're like, oh, actually, I like being more mobile. I can understand rerolling at that point because you've wasted all your easy levels because it costs so much more to level up every time, experience points wise. So I could understand rerolling, but your starting class doesn't really matter unless you're really going to go into sorcery, I guess.
Okay. I don't know nothing about everybody's talking about the gameplay and how large the open world is and, how difficult it is, but nobody has ever talked about what is going on narratively. What is the story in Elden Ring?
I'm so glad you asked, because this is where I think the game is great right now. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's exceptional, the gameplay. These games I don't ever fall in love with them until like the last third when the story starts to kind of coalesce.
Mm-hmm.
So the general crux of it, there are these 5 demi-humans who each have a piece of the Elden Ring, and you need to reassemble the Elden Ring so you can become the Elden Lord, essentially.
All right, just because.
And that's yeah, they don't really illustrate why you should be the Elden Lord,
okay.
which I think is a problem if you need motivation. But so much of the early game motivation is like solving the mystery,
right?
For me, at least, and of course the bosses are generally pretty good. And so much of these games is solving the mystery of the environment for me, and part of that is I don't really know what the hell is going on in the main storyline, and then you don't really figure it out until you get near the end.
The end of this game or the end of previous From
Software games? Just generally, yeah. So you'll have these NPC storylines along the way, which I think might drive you crazy because you never really know how to advance them. You kind of just have to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no quest tracker or anything, and so you generally have to kind of remember things. Or I guess you could keep a journal or something.
I've read somebody saying that you should keep a journal handy.
It's not the worst idea, but for me, it just kind of eliminates part of the surprise. Like when I'm cruising around the open world, I come across this living pot, and has a fun British accent, and he's asking me to smack him on the behind to get him unstuck.
I saw YouTube videos of that or on Twitter.
Which is fun, and then he mentions like, yeah, no, I'm going to go over to the Colosseum in Caelid or whatever. And then I was just exploring a cave nearby, and he's like, I seem to have been trapped down here as well. And like, that's a fun surprise.
Right.
That I just, I like to be surprised.
Is that the same pot they had on stage when they were unveiled it?
So,
you remember?
so living pots are kind of, they obviously play a part in the lore that I am not yet familiar with, because there are these sacred sites basically called minor Erd trees.
Okay.
But there's always a bunch of dead living pots around them, so they obviously play some kind of significant role. But there's also an enemy class of living pots where you fight them.
Okay.
It's really strange.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, and we've talked a little bit about this on text, but I wanted you to share with our audience, is the accessibility of this game. And when I say accessibility, I'm not talking about the accessibility that everybody is arguing about on on Twitter right now, but in terms of this being an easier one to get into for somebody that is afraid of these types of games. How much success am I going to have going into this as my first Soulsborne experience?
Okay, that's a great question. I personally think it is the most accessible one yet. There are tutorial pop-ups that explain everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've heard all the internet talk about how many people are missing the tutorial. Because a creepy ghost tells you to go down into a hole to learn, and nobody trusts the ghost.
Oh, okay.
But I did. I jumped right down there, and that's what the tutorial is. And they explain everything in like a shocking amount of detail, actually. They explained shield counters and dual wielding versus single wielding and your item slot and everything. Honestly, it was, as somebody who has played these games, it was actually pretty annoying.
Because you're like, I get it, I know.
Yeah, like I know how to swing a sword. Got it.
Right.
So I think it is most accessible in that way. And if you go into the menus, you can click the touchpad, or I don't know how you would do it on Xbox, but you can have everything in the menu kind of explained to you, and what all the stats mean and what it'll level up and everything. So yeah, I think it's far and away the most accessible. I think it is also far and away the easiest Soulsborne game. And I understand that's, I've played all of them. So I'm sure I'm carrying a little bit of that with me.
You're not being one of those guys, are you? That's like, this game's not that hard.
No, I just think it's so much easier to circumvent the difficult things, and they give you so many more tools.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could summon spirit animals who can fight alongside you which I love doing because it just makes you feel like a necromancer in Diablo.
Right.
It just feels sick to summon a pack of wolves who just help you eviscerate a group of enemies. And you can't summon them in every boss, but you can summon them in most of them. And it just makes things easier. And you could do it that way, or you could go back to the age-old... It always cracks me up, like, there's always the argument of, like, these games need an easy mode or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And easy mode is just to be a spellcaster.
Oh, really?
Yes. All of these games, like, so many of the enemies are weak to magic already. But it's just also when you put that range between you and the enemy and you have enough mana to get through it, it's the game. That is easy mode for Dark Souls.
So I need to become a magic user when I play.
Yeah, or you can have like a little dagger in one hand, but a staff in the other. It could be cool.
All right.
I will say the game is faster than the Dark Souls, but not as fast as Bloodborne, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think I described the first major boss, Margit, is a boss that has a Bloodborne moveset, but I have a Dark Souls moveset.
Oh, okay.
So it's definitely a different kind of game.
Interesting. The other thing that I've heard people talk about is the scope of this game. And I don't know how far into it you are, how many hours you've put into it, but people are saying that it's not even apparent at the beginning just how massive this game is. Are you getting any sense of that with how far into it you've gotten?
This is why I'm glad I waited a week, because yes.
Okay.
They deliberately trick you in that where your cursor stops on the map border is not actually how big the map is.
Oh, okay.
It expands. It is a massive video game in that way. And I will say it doesn't feel as overwhelming because there aren't the icons on the map, so you can just kind of explore the areas you want to. But I will say I'm 25 hours in and I've only killed one of the 5 demi-humans.
Okay. Is that Margit, or is that just the first gatekeeper?
Yeah, Margit he's basically just he's a butler for the boss, basically.
Oh, nice.
He's the first major boss is easier than Margit. Margit is a very tough first boss, I will say that. Even as somebody who thinks this overall Elden Ring is a little bit easier than the rest, I think Margit is a real pain in the ass.
Okay.
But when you beat him, Scott, does it feel good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is this one just so insanely popular? It sounds like from the way you're describing it that it's not doing a whole lot of new things other than the open world.
This is where I don't want to sound like a poo-pooer, but I also kind of don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it is open world, and people generally like open worlds. But I mean, all of the stuff you're doing is stuff you've been doing since Demon's Souls. Like, it's not revolutionary in any way to me. I mean, they added a jump button, I guess, and it's true. There's like an insane amount of stuff to do, and there's you'll find a random cave and there's a boss at the end of it. But I think because of how many bosses there are, so many of them aren't memorable, and I would say over half of the bosses, if not more, and I swear this is not me being an elitist, like I've beaten on the first try.
Mm-hmm.
Just the bosses are just way easier because I assume it's because you can't make every boss at the end of a cave super hard because you know how can you playtest that?
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is that, they have smaller move sets, which is okay as well, like because I don't want every random cave I find to have this extravagant boss at the end of it. I think it would probably just be annoying.
Right.
But it does lead to a situation where it's just I guess it's basically he's an enemy. He just happens to have a health bar at the bottom of the screen.
Gotcha.
And
last question I have. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, and the open world, don't get me wrong, is super cool. It does have the Breath of the Wild effect of you never know what's around the next corner. And what is cool is because they'll have like ruins or they'll have cave entrances or different setups, and it feels like it's just going to be the same every time. But when you go down, every ruin is guaranteed to have a staircase to a dungeon area.
Mm-hmm.
And but when you get in there, every one of those dungeons is unique from each other.
Gotcha.
They'll have different layouts, and it's nice because they all have a different reward at the end, which is can kind of be annoying, right? Because you'll find like a super cool staff, but you don't use magic. So you're like, all right, I just fought that boss for nothing, I guess.
Can you sell
but
items or anything?
You can, but it's for such a negligible amount of currency that it doesn't really matter. I just hold on to it. But you do have that boss. It's just there are some reused bosses, which is not normal for these games. I assume just due to how many there are. And the most frustrating kind of boss is like, say like there are these weird pumpkin head enemies or whatever, and you fight them left and right. But then the boss is just like a supercharged version of that, and like that just sucks. I'm sorry, like it just isn't fun. Mm-hmm. And you just kill them. It just takes you twice as long because they have a bigger health bar.
Gotcha.
And I don't know. To me, like the sense of discovery I'm having in the open world is the same kind of sense of discovery I was having in Dark Souls anyway, which is to say that it is great and it is fun to find these little secrets. It's just one of my favorite aspects was always the shortcuts and the way you see the whole map interlinking and stuff, and the way you find you're in a poison swamp in Bloodborne, you find the super tall ladder because it's a cave swamp or whatever, and you come on the ladder and it's like, oh, this is the graveyard where I started the game. That's crazy that these two areas are connected, and you're not going to get that here. Because you can't.
Because it's an open world. Yeah.
Right. And so for me, it's a little bit disappointing in that regard. That being said, like, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to talk about the game because I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it, is what I'm thinking about when I'm not playing it. It's just like, I don't understand what everybody is talking about because it is just Dark Souls, but wider.
Maybe it's just because it's become more popular than the other ones?
I guess so, and I guess the removal of the compass. Or well, actually, it does have a compass.
Or is it the George R.R. Martin effect?
It's fun. I don't know what his impact was on the game because it doesn't. It feels like a Miyazaki game through and through. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have Martin's fingerprints on it. The only Martin fingerprint I can detect is the fact that all the names sound the same.
That's funny.
It's just
he wrote that. I saw somebody. I can't tell if they were being serious or not in our Discord. I think it was Com Cody said that George R.R. Martin wrote the note left behind this his finger butthole. That was pretty funny. I assumed it was a joke, but who knows?
Yeah, it's funny because fingers are such a big part of the lore. Like you take orders from these. They're referred to as the two fingers, and I thought it was just like these two leaders or whatever. When you meet them, they're literally two fingers. And it's just funny because they had to know, right, that if fingers are a huge part of your lore, people are going to get dirty with it quickly.
Yeah. We're going to get dirty with anything.
Right.
The last question I had for you before I kind of let you just tell anything else you want to talk about Elden Ring is how it looks. Because I know that you're not a huge graphics guy, but you kind of raved about how Demon Souls looked on PS5.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the same type of game, but I assume it's got to have a bigger budget. How does it look by comparison? Or how does it look generally?
Much worse.
Much worse than the remake?
The Demon Souls remake had the benefit of they were just giving a coat of paint to a game that already existed.
Right.
And this is obviously significantly bigger. The art design's cool, although it's a little bit... I had this thought, and I feel like I'm just going to get crap for it, but it has a little bit of a Rare effect.
Like the developer Rare?
Yes, you know how they just put googly eyes and everything, and they make them alive?
Yeah.
Like the enemy types are just like stuff, like pots, or here's a flaming wheelbarrow that's alive, and you're like, what? Like it's just
Is that for real?
Yes. It's funny because you all just kind of accept it because it all has like the same kind of sad, depressing art style or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it started to make me think of a Rare game. Like I'm getting attacked by wasps next to a pot that is alive. Now I've been knocked into a grizzly bear who doesn't like me for some reason, and it's just like there are trees attacking me, and it's just like, man, they're just like Rare. They just make everything life. It's just really funny.
Interesting.
But to the technical aspects, there's a hilarious amount of pop-in every time. Every time you fast travel, it'll just be like a flat world before the textures pop in.
Oh, and they don't even like mask it behind a screen?
No, it's just like, guys, you could have just taken a second longer to load.
Right.
Like, it loads your character in, and then you watch the environment load in around you. It's really funny.
No.
But,
to be fair, Horizon did that on week 1 too.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I guess while we're on the topic, the frame rate dips. So the frame rate always dips in this game. So I just kind of expected that. Just kind of slogs every now and again. But the graphics you're not gonna write home about them. It's no Horizon Forbidden West. But just the breadth of it's cool, and the art style is very cool, and there are a lot of unique things to look at, which is very exciting. There's this NPC called Blide the Half Wolf, who I'm in love with. He just kind of looks like Guts from Berserk. To anybody who that means anything to, he looks sick.
I think I've seen some videos of some of the bosses, or even just random enemies, and they just look cool. There's just some really cool. I saw a video of like this giant dragon that just swooped in out of nowhere and just kind of stood there for a minute growling, and then just whipped out a flaming sword. I've never seen a dragon like holding a sword before, and that just kind of threw me for a second. I was like, I need to play this game.
Yeah, I guess there are like a lot of those watery cooler moments that I have nobody to share them with.
Right. I'm sorry, man.
No, it's fine. I guess I probably just got to get in our Discord channel more. But I mean, the game's absolutely great. Everybody that's interested should play it. I will say, if you didn't like Dark Souls or Bloodborne or any of the other games, there's nothing here that's going to make you like it. Mm-hmm. And that's not gatekeeper. That's not gatekeeper mentality. It's just I don't know what you would see here that you didn't see in the other games.
No, I get you, but I am going to give it the old college try, and like a legitimate college try.
The best lesson they give you for the open world is that it's okay to come back later, because you are going to hit some walls, and if you just go explore around and come back later, you're going to feel much better about it. Like, the game leads you to Margit right away, and I think that's why so many people talk about him, because you can get to him in 40 minutes,
right?
But you're probably not going to be able to beat him until you're 4 hours in,
right?
Because you just need to.
I have no problem just going around and killing stuff and leveling up and just kind of, because I'm going to be needing to learn the game. You know what I mean? And I'm going to need the practice. So me going around and just learning off of the quote unquote easier enemies to just get familiar with my character and do that over and over again, doesn't sound like a bad thing to me. It just sounds like a good practice session for me that hopefully will get me into it. Or hopefully not, because if it's as large as you're talking, I'm not going to play anything else for a really long time.
Yeah, I think that might also be part of my problem, is that I just don't like big game maps. So every time it expands, I kind of get a little sad. Like, right. This is who I am. But I think when the story starts to come together at the end and stuff, I think I'm absolutely going to love it. It probably won't be a Dark Souls or a Bloodborne. Ain't nobody topping Bloodborne when it comes to these kind of games.
Interesting.
But Elden Ring it's absolutely great, man. It's the easiest one to recommend, that's for sure.
Okay, easiest to recommend, but you still like Bloodborne better.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and as I wrote in last week, I'm really trying to check myself on hyperbole anyway. But there's nothing about this game that I love more than Bloodborne anyway. Like, I think Bloodborne just had a better setting that appealed to me more. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the setting is Elden Ring. Elden Ring, as much as I love it, the setting is absolute nonsense.
It sounds like it from what you said.
It's like they just shoved together all of the stuff they liked into one game.
Oh,
because there's a castle to the south where it's just Bloodborne for 45 minutes.
Oh,
like, it's all these beast enemies and they're all fast attacking groups and stuff, and you're just like, oh, I'm just playing Bloodborne right now. And shocker, it was one of my favorite areas. But it's cool, and it's nice. It's nice that, like, when you finish a unique area, you're not just getting XP to upgrade a skill tree or whatever. You're getting a unique item that's much more rewarding to me, even if it is something I'm not going to use. But then, you find this. I was walking through the woods, right, and there was just a ghost walking around. Mm-hmm. So I followed the ghost, and he walked into a cave. And then I just explored the cave, and it turned out it was this giant rat-infested cave, had these giant rats in it and stuff. And sure enough, there's a unique boss down there. And when I beat him, I just found this medallion that's just like increases your maximum stamina. And I'm like, oh, that's a game changer. Mm-hmm. I equipped it right away, and that's cool that happened just because I happened across that ghost and I just followed him.
And you could have just ignored it or ran away because it might have scared you.
Right, but it feels cool. Like it feels like I found that. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't a quest directing me there or whatever. And maybe there is later. Maybe an NPC's like, dude, you got to go to the cave on the east. But I didn't, and it was cool. And or like that blind character I was talking about, he wanted me to kill a certain boss, and I was like, homie, I already did. I'll tell you. And like, it's cool that I could find that boss and fight him on my own. I didn't need to initiate a quest line. That's cool.
That is cool. It's weird that it still brings it up. I guess in the real world, that character would not know that you felled that boss already.
Right. Well, then he's like, I'll meet you there. And then you go meet him there. He's like, oh, so you already took care of it.
Oh, he does? Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, he acknowledges it, yes.
Ah.
It's pretty adaptable.
Nice.
And it's also, like, I found this half of this medallion, and it happened to have, a wolf logo on it. It's like, hey, like, this lady really... I'm dying, take this medallion, like, I entrust it to Latenna, and you like, look at the medallion, it's a wolf, and I meet this woman, and she's like hanging out with her wolf buddy, and I'm like, maybe this medallion has something to do with her, and it does. And I had to piece that together on my own, and that feels very rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot to love in this game. It's just open world Dark Souls, man.
Sounds.
I just don't understand why everybody's losing their damn minds, but that's a weird feeling.
I get that.
But that's me, Elden Ring, PS5. The highest of recommendations. I'm sure it'll end unbelievably. So you've been playing Infernax, which just straight up looks like Castlevania.
It kind of does, doesn't it? It's Castlevania if Castlevania was gory as hell. Like,
it's heavy metal Castlevania.
I mean, it's not just. I don't know if I'd call it like heavy metal. The soundtrack is not metal. It's still very MIDI chiptune type stuff. But it's no, I know what you mean. But it is there's even gore in the main, because this is a pixelated game, right? It looks like an old school Castlevania game. But I've never seen this in a pixelated game where when you damage an enemy that isn't defeated yet, it actually shows pixelated wear or blood trails on it. So, like,
it's pretty cool. That's modern technology at work, I guess.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Like, you hit a zombie that takes 3 hits, and you hit it twice. It's now got blood trickling down. It's pixelated head, which is kind of cool. But the real gore comes in the when you see, like, it's almost like these cutscenes that are just so over the top gory in ways that you don't expect when a game that looks as old school as this does on the surface, which is kind of cool.
People are just exploding into viscera.
Exactly. But it does the Dark Souls thing. I feel like I'm getting my Dark Souls fix in that, you die, you lose everything. You know what I mean? You lose all your experience, you lose all your gold. But there are save points along the way. As long as you get to a save point, you're fine. Now, the game does have a mode that allows you to, not lose everything. You keep some of it, kind of thing. So it's almost like an easy mode, but it'll negate certain.
Can you recover the stuff you drop?
No, that's the Dark Souls thing that it doesn't do. Or even Shovel Knight did that, right? Where wherever you die, you come back and the stuff is waiting for you. It does not do that. I kind of wish it did. But here's the really cool part is there are some light decision making, and I'm going to tell you the first one, which it might sound like a spoiler, but it's literally the first 15 seconds of the game, so I don't really feel like it's. But just to give you an idea of what this game does, one of the first things you come across is this guy that looks like he's been infected with something, and you have the option to either try to save him or just slay him right away. You know what I mean? Okay. And me being the person that I am, decide to try to help him.
The upstanding citizen that you are.
Right. I should have known. This is the gotcha moment of this game, is it you try to save him and he turns into this gigantic beast, which is basically at this point in the game an unbeatable boss. You just can't. There's just no way you're going to do it unless you have, unless you're just really, really good at this game, which even then I don't know how. So needless to say, I did not even come close to passing it. Started again, had the same decision, decided to slay him, did so in gratuitous fashion with this cutscene, and I just moved on. Like that was just like
Wow.
that was the decision you made, and I just think that it's interesting that it does those kinds of things.
It's teaching you to be a bad guy. You know, it doesn't have time for heroes.
Right. So anyway, the game just kind of goes on with that mentality, and I haven't got super deep in it, so I won't talk too much longer on it, but it definitely has that drive to keep me going. It doesn't give you... It has like a gear-gated style map, 2D map, but you don't really know where you're supposed to be headed, so you just kind of have to wander and figure it out and learn the area, and then if you don't save, it doesn't save the map, so you kind of have to rediscover it.
Brutal.
Yeah, which is... So it's got this difficulty curve to it. I don't know how difficult it gets, but so far it's not terrible because, the enemies are typical, 8-bit, 16-bit melee enemies, or Metroid enemies that aren't too difficult. You just have to kind of know their patterns. And I'm excited to see where it goes because I have a lot of spell slots and I have a lot of it's not even a skill tree. You've got 3 things that you can upgrade: either your health, your attack power, and your magic. That's it. And, the first time you unlock them, they're like 750 experience. The next time you unlock it, it's like 1250 experience. So, it just gets exponentially larger, and I'm assuming that the experience grows as you go. But this is the game that I wish I could be playing because I really, really like the music, the art style. The difficulty is actually attractive to me because it feels that sense of relief when you get to a save point. You're like, all right,
Sure.
got this. I just love that feeling of like, I made it this far. So I'm digging
Me too.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
I almost had more to say on Elden Ring, but I don't want to ruin the flow here.
So yeah, I don't want to speak too much on it, but I'm just saying, if you have Game Pass, just check it out. It's on Game Pass on Xbox. So
there's just the Game Pass thing is like, why would you buy a game on Xbox at this point?
I don't know. I mean, if you really want to play Elden Ring, I guess. But so
yeah, I guess fair enough.
So yeah, that's all I have to say about Infernax. I imagine I'm going to be playing more. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't even know what to say. How far I am. I've leveled up 3 or 4 times. I've beaten 2 bosses. I'm not incredibly far, and that was only like an hour and a half I played. So I'm not very far, but I liked it enough that it made me wish I was done with Horizon, which sucks because Horizon's really good. But there's just so many things I want to play as well.
I'm coming to the realization where I'll probably beat Elden Ring in April because I gotta play these other games along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I feel you.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but that's not the only thing you've been playing.
Yeah, I've played even less of this game, but we got to talk about it.
You've been playing, keeping the arcade feelings going strong. Puzzle Quest 3. What a bit of a stealth release here on iOS.
Yeah, it just kind of came out with a whisper, didn't it?
For something that, when the first game came out, it was like a revolution.
Yeah.
Everybody played it. Everybody talked about it. There were 3,000 knockoffs of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Puzzle Quest 3, man. Tell me about it.
Puzzle Quest 3 is a free-to-play game, and I say that without disdain in my voice because I have yet to see any microtransactions yet. I don't, and to be fair, I have not played it a ton because I got annoyed with some stuff early on that I'll get to in just a second. But I don't know if this is a situation where you have a certain amount of time and then you have to like recharge like Candy Crush style, or if I can just like pay to win and I can buy all whatever weapons I need to get through bosses, which is no fun. I don't know what that model is. What I do know is that they've taken the formula of Puzzle Quest, which is, a grid of different colored gems that you switch Candy Crush style, and they've put a whole lot of money into... Because you remember the old Puzzle Quest games where you just have a static image of the character that you're fighting and a static image of you, and there's no animation?
Yeah.
Now they've made 3D models of your character and every enemy that you fight that, physically do the thing like Final Fantasy VII style, where they kind of stand there.
Oh.
And then...
That's a bit extravagant.
It is, and at first I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But it's just so unnecessary. Like, I just don't need it. There was something that I liked about just having the static image and using my imagination about what they were doing instead of... But, I mean, there's so many animations for all the magic spells that you do, for the way the enemy reacts when they're hit. You know what I mean?
Does it just take too long? Is that what's frustrating you?
I think so. Yeah, because I just kind of want to especially if I'm going to play this as much as I played Puzzle Quest 1 and Puzzle Quest 2, which I put a lot of time into those games. Because you played these games for the satisfaction of switching the gems, right?
Of puzzling, yeah.
Of puzzling and the leveling up. Sometimes the grind feels good and getting us some new thing that makes you powerful or some new spell that does something interesting.
Small number become big number.
Right, which I know, I like. The thing that I have to get used to, and it's breaking my brain on how I'm going to do this, but they let you switch gems diagonally instead of just horizontally and vertically, which I'm not used to.
It's kind of breaking my brain thinking about it.
Not only that, I don't even know how to explain this. They do this deal where anytime you take a turn, as soon as you do your first turn, a timer starts. And I think for me, it's like either 2 or 3 seconds. So I have 2 or 3 seconds. And within that 2 or 3 seconds, I can keep making other moves to increase it. So and it doesn't have to be the same color. I can so what I find myself doing is before I make a move, because you don't have any time limit before you have to make a move, I just kind of stare at the board and map out what I'm going to do. You know what I mean?
Well, that's good, right? I mean, isn't that a little bit strategic, though?
It is. It's just that it sounds like I'm knocking the game because we want them to iterate on something that already exists. But really, what I wanted was just another Puzzle Quest.
A fresher interface for Puzzle Quest.
Right. I would have actually taken the exact same formula of like Puzzle Quest 1 or Puzzle Quest 2. Just with a new story and new weapons and enemies, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do.
I just, like I said, the diagonal movements is just messing with my brain because I've not looked for diagonal switches in the 7-8 years that I've been playing. Actually, it's been longer than that. The original Puzzle Quest came out in the 360 era.
It did.
Not to mention I dabbled in Candy Crush for a little while there over the past couple months. So my brain is so tuned to horizontal and vertical movement that I just can't even think of a strategy.
Adding the diagonal is definitely a choice.
Yeah, I don't know if I like it yet.
Because all the knockoffs and stuff are also horizontal, vertical. So yeah, just the diagonal, would throw me off, I think.
I download it. It's a free download. I want you to see how it feels.
I think I will. I'm intrigued by the battle animations, actually, which is a funny thing to think of, but it does sway me to want to try it out.
That's interesting because I just found myself distracted by it. Like, just do the attack. I mean, it's not like it's a super long wait, but I'm also my brain is so used to Candy Crush right now, where like it's just instant. You know what I mean?
Because you pick back up the poison.
I did. I've fallen off a little bit, but every once in a while, just because I haven't had the time.
As soon as Microsoft bought them, you were all in again.
I really didn't even put that in my mind at all. But I don't know. It's. I just wanted more Puzzle Quest 1. I like Puzzle Quest 2, but I really like Puzzle Quest 1. I like the overworld map. I like going on quests and those quests being not solve the puzzle, but beat this enemy, recover whatever you have to from them, and level up, and just how intricate the RPG system was. I just really dug it. And this one just seems like it's complicating it in a different way that breaks my brain. Kind of like how, I don't know how much Guitar Hero you played, but when they switched
a bunch.
Okay. When they switched Guitar Hero from 5 buttons to 6 buttons, 2 on top of each other.
Yeah.
Which basically made me relearn how to play Guitar Hero.
Right, and it feels a little bit like change for the sake of it.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of the feeling I get with Puzzle Quest 3. I'll keep giving it. I'm going to give it a little bit more time, but those changes are just so different that I just don't know if I like it yet. If that makes sense.
I do understand what you mean, man. Yeah.
So that is Puzzle Quest 3. I'm playing it on iOS. I cannot remember if it's Android or not. I know you have iOS, so you'll want to check it out.
We're in the same boat.
All right, before we move on, got a couple other games. Sean stopped to talk to us about a couple games that he checked out, so I'm going to go ahead and play those reviews for you right now. I'm here with Sean Coates, who hasn't been on to talk to us about games in a while. How you doing, man?
Oh, I've been good. Like I said, I've told you before, I'm getting over a cold, but I'm on the tail end of it. Otherwise, I'm fine.
Well, I hope that you feel better soon, man, and I appreciate you stopping by to chat with us. You played a couple of racing games. One, we'll start off with Music Racer Ultimate, which comes from developer Abstract Art and was provided to us by Evolve PR. This one intrigued me because I love rhythm games, I love racing games, and I love games that allow you to put your own music into it. And that's what this looked like in the trailer. So talk to me about this. What makes this game interesting?
Well, just as what you just said, rhythm games are cool. I really enjoy racing games. I think I've reviewed 2 or 3 already for you. So, but as for this one, yeah, the hook that got me was you do your own music. However, there's a real big fat asterisk with that statement.
Okay.
In that I was assuming there would be some kind of like an easy Spotify integration or something like that. But no,
right.
You need to have something, what's called a web dev server. Now, call me an old fuddy-duddy or out of touch, but I've never heard of that term until last week.
And what platform trailer. Did you play this on?
Series X.
Okay, so you played it on Xbox, and you have to have. So you just download an app on the Xbox?
No, I think a web dev server is like a whole separate thing through a computer or a smartphone, where you can put. It's like a server where you can put cloud storage where you can put files on, and then this game you type in the link to it on the game. And
which is always fun to do, typing in a link with a keyboard.
Yeah, there's so many jumps and hoops to go through. And I don't have a web dev server, so I couldn't really use my own music to this. The one big draw of this game for me, I couldn't participate in.
Wow, that's a bummer. But talk to me about the gameplay though, because like I said, racing game, rhythm game. How do you play this one?
It's also. Yeah, it's called Music Racer. However, it's barely a racing game, and it's also barely a rhythm game too. Here's why.
Okay.
In terms of the racing part, you don't control your car in the traditional sense of a racing game. You don't accelerate. You don't brake. You don't really steer your car.
All right.
The speed.
Are there note highways?
There are notes on the highway. Yeah, kind of like Guitar Hero, but. Even that is not really exactly in sync with the music like you would in Guitar Hero. They just happen to be randomly placed on the quote unquote road. And and all you do is you just steer. You don't even have to steer with the joystick, by the way. I've just been using the on Xbox the bumper buttons to shift from lane to lane.
Right.
That's
kind of like how Amplitude and all those games work.
Yeah, and set to environments that can be compared to iTunes visualizers.
Oh, all right.
That's the best way I can describe like the environments and backgrounds.
Okay, but that sounds like a rhythm game. Why is it barely a rhythm game?
Well, because the notes on the road are not in sync to the music. They're just there.
I guess it would be hard to do to generate. Beats that go and beat with whatever you're playing. I don't know.
It does do the good thing of like any sort of media player visualizer. The colors and whatnot are in beat with the music, and it's kind of cool. And the speed of your car is determined by the tempo and the beats per minute of the song you're playing to.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay,
and is it
fun to play?
In short bursts, in very, very short bursts, and the novelty wears out its welcome in about 2 or 3 races.
Oh no, that's a bummer. This looks really promising to me.
Yeah, like I said, I think the real novelty, the real draw was being able to race your own music, but since I couldn't do that, I was relegated to, there's about 35, 40 songs locally that are in the game itself.
Are they original, or are they something that I would recognize?
They're all original tunes, and they're all of the like synthwave, synth pop genre, which goes along with the visuals. And and there is a streaming service that is attached to this game, but it's not Spotify, it's not Pandora, it's a service called Audius.
Not one I'm familiar with.
Again, same here. Before last week, I never heard of Audius, and looking into it. It's for up and coming artists that don't have record labels, and it uses a blockchain business model.
Oh, okay. Eesh.
And unfortunately, when it comes to that, the only way you can pick songs from the Audius app is by searching by artist. But if you don't know who's
so you
on
can't
that,
do like a genre.
yeah, you can't do a genre search. So if you don't know what artists are on this platform, how are you going to search for them if you don't know what you're searching for? So
Interesting.
Yeah, that was kind of a disappointment too. Again, the big draw for me was being able to put in your own music, but I couldn't do that.
Yeah, so this one sounds like it would be really interesting for people that have that service already installed and can upload that link. But if you don't, you're going to have to do some homework before you play the game.
Yeah, and that was, unfortunately, I'm sad to say, more hoops I was willing to go through for a game like this.
Okay. Well, that is Music Racer Ultimate. Let's move on to the other one. You picked up this one on your own and really wanted to talk about it. It's called Gravity Chase, and you described this to me as a Wipeout clone, which I like me some Wipeout, so what stands it apart from Wipeout?
The tracks are in tubes, or like tube through full 360 tunnels. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it. You're driving, you're piloting anti-gravity racecrafts, just like in Wipeout. Very angular looking, has wing. They look like R wings, And the tracks themselves, like I said, are either inside a pipe, or you can actually drive. On some stages, it's outside the pipe. And there are about 8 opponents, all AI. There's no, in terms of multiplayer, there is 4-player split screen co-op, but no online.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you can only do split screen multiplayer locally. And there's about 16 or 17 courses, and again, the backgrounds are just that, backgrounds, because you're racing.
Did you play this on Xbox as well?
I did. It was actually made for the One, and it never got a Series X or S optimization, so I'm just playing the One version on a Series X.
Mm-hmm.
And
one of the things about Wipeout that I love so much is that it really gave you a sense of speed. Do you get that feeling while playing this one too?
Absolutely, and almost too much so. I wouldn't recommend this for anybody with motion sensitivity.
Okay.
Especially
I tried Wipeout in VR and had a bad time.
Oh my! Oh wow! Yeah, I wouldn't do that with this game either.
Yeah.
There's, in terms of the handling of the crafts, there's about 10 or 11 spacecrafts or anti-gravity crafts you can pilot, each with their own different, each with their own handling and unique acceleration. And you can adjust the difficulty, and the higher the difficulty, the more gravity is implemented in the race. So it's very easy to oversteer, and suddenly you find yourself spiraling out of control down this tube, and that's where the motion sickness got it. And I'm not sensitive to that kind of stuff, and it got me at times.
Interesting. Now, one of the things that piqued my interest about this one was the price point. This is a budget title game, correct?
Yeah. It was British developer, so it's £10 or $11.99 US.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
it does not look like a $12 game though. It looked pretty high quality in terms of visuals.
It is, but on the technical side, because this is just a Xbox One game, the frame rate and whatnot caps out at 30 frames per second, regardless of your hardware platform.
Okay. Are you recommending people check this one out?
To Gravity Chase, yes, absolutely. And for the cost of 2 or 3 cappuccinos, you can't go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. Sounds good. That is Gravity Chase. The developer is Repixel 8. That sounds pretty interesting. I could get down for some Wipeout-like action for $12. I'm kind of digging that. So.
And I've looked up this Repixel 8 studio, and it's for the most part just one guy. But looking at his release history, he tends to do a lot of mid-90s racing-like games.
Okay. Very cool, man. Well, thanks for stopping by to talk to us about 2 racing games. I know I'm always down for some of these. I appreciate you taking the time, man, and hope you have a great one. Hope you feel better.
Thank you. See you next time, man.
All right, catch you later.
See ya.
Thanks again, Sean. Do appreciate it. Want to remind everybody about our social media outlets and where you can follow the Gaming Outsider. We have a Facebook page, which can be found at facebook.com/groups/thegocast. We have a new member to say hello to over there by the name of EJ Miller, so welcome to the community. Also, our Discord community is still up and running, and you can find a link for our Discord server in the show notes for this very episode. Also, if everybody gets a chance, please drop us a review wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, all those places. If they have a rating system, drop us a review and let us know what you think. And we do read those on the show. So if you write one out, we will read it as well. And it helps us get the show out there too. Lastly, our website is thegamingoutsider.com. That's where you can find all of our episodes as well as all of our written content. And we've got quite a bit of written content coming out here in the next month or so. So stay tuned for that. Let's go ahead now and jump into our From the Outside In topic. Although it's technically our second episode of the month, we usually do this one the first of each month. It's time once again for community questions. Each month, we ask all of you on Facebook, Discord, and Twitter for discussion-inducing questions, and you delivered once again. We'll start over on Facebook. First one comes from Sean Coates, and he says, suppose you had 68.7 billion, just lying around somewhere. What game publisher or studio would you acquire, and what games would you insist be made a priority? Also, if applicable, would you do any company restructuring or resurrect defunct studios? Boy, that's a big question.
Right, 68.7 billion is a lot of kishish.
Yeah. I mean, he's referring to Microsoft acquiring
Right,
Activision
yes.
Blizzard, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. It wasn't just a random number.
No. I mean, for me, the publisher I would purchase would be Square Enix. Because they make most of what I love anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And I would make a Nier 3 a priority, because where the hell's that at? And the number one priorities on Square Enix would be remaking Brave Fencer Musashi for modern hardware, because that game is awesome and underrated. And I would make a modern free-to-play Bushido Blade. I think that would be sick, as the kids say. And I would start giving every mainline Final Fantasy as much time as it needed.
That's a good call. And Final Fantasy 16, I forgot that was a thing.
A PlayStation 5 exclusive.
I did not remember that.
Yeah, it's a huge get.
That is a big get.
I would just repool our developers and be like, just finish Final Fantasy VII Remake, guys. Come on.
just make that your priority.
Right, just barrel that bad boy out, because that first part was pretty darn good.
I wish I had time to go back and replay that. I want to play it again so bad.
I even want to play the Yuffie stuff.
I still haven't done that either. Yeah, it seemed expensive. Was that expensive DLC, or am I just imagining that? Or was it Intergrade, where you had to it was the game and the DLC?
It was so messy to just play that piece of content.
Gotcha.
You had to play on PS5 and all that. As for defunct studios, Visceral Games, of course.
That was going to be mine.
Yeah, well, okay, fine. Pandemic Studios. They gone before their time.
Gotta remind me, what did Pandemic make?
Oh, so they not Saints Row, that's Felicia, I'm sorry. The Saboteur was one of their games. Star Wars Battlefront.
Black and white, right?
Yeah, it was black. It was in black and white until you took back that zone from the Nazis, and then it would be in color. Super cool. Yeah. Loved it.
I would like to go back and revisit that one at some point.
Yeah, they were the developers of Star Wars Battlefront. They know Mercenaries. Is one of theirs. I think a modern day Mercenaries would be really cool.
Interesting.
What about you?
I'm gonna go with the low hanging fruit on the publisher studio, and I don't know, $68.7 billion. I don't think that'd be enough, but I'm gonna say Nintendo, because
now you're in charge of Nintendo,
huh?
Now you're in charge of Nintendo,
because some of the decisions they make just baffle me. The lack of ease to get some games on Switch, or just the locking out of like bring back your old catalog and let people purchase it.
Why can't I play Game Boy Advance games on my Switch?
Right. I mean, it just that just would sell so well. There are so many good Game Boy Advance games. I mean, it was on the Wii U.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's no reason not to be on Switch.
Yeah. That and their whole deal of limited digital quantities, like that kinds of thing. Or
So stupid.
I'm not even really mad at like them re-releasing consoles with different colors or controllers and stuff, because that you don't really have to. That's just, people, they got to have the new thing.
I was gonna say they wouldn't do it if people didn't eat them up.
Right. But I would definitely kind of, because to me, Nintendo's library is so important to me in terms of it's what I grew up with. And they just seem very uninterested in preservation outside of Nintendo Switch Online.
I mean, they almost seem like they're against it.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
It almost seems antagonistic, which is bizarre.
I don't understand that. So I just feel like, and it's weird to say that I would shake things up at Nintendo because they're obviously doing just fine. It's not like
the last company in need of shaking up.
But there's just some things that I wish that they would change that to be more, because if any company is going to be all about game preservation, you would think it would be Nintendo.
Well, they have so many of the most historically important video games,
right? All
under one roof. Like, yeah, why wouldn't you make that stuff so accessible?
And it just feels like a license to print money if you put those, instead of doing just the Nintendo Switch Online, let people purchase them as well. So
why the hell is Skyward Sword on the Nintendo Switch, but Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, which you've already done the work to make in HD, not on the console?
I don't understand.
Doesn't make any sense. Every other Wii U game comes over, we're like, nah, not Wind Waker though. Doesn't make any freaking sense.
I agree.
I'm with you. Thank you for doing the hero's work.
Well, you knew I was going with it. I mean, it felt like low-hanging fruit, but I had good reasons for it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They didn't even enter my mind. They're just so big.
Right. That's why I said 6.87 or 68.7 is not going to be enough. So, as far as defunct, you stole my answer with Visceral. I would definitely have brought Visceral back. Could you imagine what they would be making right now if they were still together? Like, I just
well, we would have had a cool Star Wars heist game from Amy Hennig. That would have been pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but if you're calling the shots, you could also just make Dead Space 4 happen in a flash.
Right. Outside of that, the developer is completely escaping my mind. What was Ted Levine's company that made
Ken
BioShock?
Levine? You're Irrational?
Irrational, yeah. I would bring back like original Irrational, or I would reform Irrational, under a new name or something like that. I would just kind of give them a boost and say, go make something as awesome as BioShock. Surprise me.
I would just give Warren Spector a bunch of money.
That's a good call too.
Yeah. I would use part of the $68.7 billion to finally let Warren Spector make his dream game where it's just one downtown block or whatever.
One downtown. I'm not familiar with that concept.
Oh, he's talked about his dream game that would just never be able to get published or funded would be just creating one city block, but with the density of real life.
That's just like constantly alive.
Really, and you can enter every room and interact with everything like you could, because the immersive sim, right, was the genre he helped create, and it's so interactive. But he would want to do that on the scale of just you can go into everybody's house and you can pick up all of their games or whatever, or you could cook eggs or whatever. It's like everything that would exist within one city block would be in this game.
So it's just straight up just interacting with anything, and there's not really any purpose or beating the game. It's just being there and experiencing it.
Basically, yeah.
I would totally play that.
I know, but Warren Spector's right. Why would anybody fund that? There's like no winnable state.
Yeah,
it would just be the world's most expensive tech demo.
Mm-hmm.
But I would want Warren Spector to go ahead and make that.
I like it. I have a I feel like I have more respect for the man after listening to Schreier's book and hearing his story.
He's
pretty
interesting. I've always loved him.
Yeah.
He rebooted my computer. Rob Matthew writes in, for the collectors, I imagine you keep the original boxes and packaging for the stuff you open? Stupid question time.
Now I do.
Scott doesn't open anything.
I open some stuff. I try to not open any Zelda stuff whenever possible.
What do you mean by now you do?
Oh, man. I have a horror story to tell you.
Oh, all right.
I decided I was going to make a nice Christmas gift for a former host of this podcast. And wanted to make some coasters.
Okay.
Because I had like lacquer and all this kind of stuff. And I basically took, like bathroom tiles, like perfectly square bathroom tiles, and I would cut out stuff and put it on there and then cover it in a lacquer, let it dry, and then you've got a nice coaster, which is a really cool idea. So before I knew the value of anything, and you probably won't care, but if CB were here, he would really destroy me. I cut up some old school Nintendo boxes into perfect
like NES?
squares. Yep.
Oof. No, like I can feel that one.
Dr. Mario, like
I hope he likes those coasters.
He probably threw them away at this point, but
it's fair enough.
Not like they'd be worth anything all cut up and all that, but yeah, that was before I really knew that boxes and manuals and things like that were a collector's item. And then I met CB and started learning a little bit more.
I wonder how many people listening to this podcast just threw up.
Yeah, probably. But yes, nowadays I've gone like the reverse, and I don't even open my stuff, much less, cut that up into pieces. So, but yeah,
wow.
I'm really mad. I had I was gifted actually by Chris Owens a Power Glove. I actually have the box and the manual, and actually no, there's no box, but I have the manual. And I should have put the manual in a plastic baggie, like a big freezer bag or something to protect it. Because, every year I go down there and I dust, I take everything down and dust it and put it back. And lo and behold, on top of this manual, which was on my display shelf, was a gummy bear that had been sitting there for who knows how many months, because I hadn't dusted since the year before. That had, over however long it was, just kind of slowly melted down and just absolutely destroyed that top layer of the instruction manual of my Power Glove manual. Which is funny because if you look at it, it's not even a manual. It's just like photocopies. Like it's just straight up copy paper. So I could very easily just copy it. It won't be authentic, but I could find a PDF of it or whatever and get that first page. But it just really irked me.
I bet you were devastated in the moment.
Oh yeah, was not happy, and all I could think of was somebody at a party or somebody came over and had a gummy bear, and it somehow landed on. I was pretty upset, but yeah, I do keep original boxes and packaging because I feel like I'm a collector. I'm not nowhere near the level that CB is, but I've just learned the value of stuff like that. And I feel like I learned it a little bit even early on because, I was trying to be economical with my games when I would buy physical copies and then play through it as quickly as possible and then flip it on eBay. And those games you're gonna get more for it if you have the manual and the case and all that kind of stuff. So, I do more digital now than physical, but I would keep it for that reason as well.
Yeah, I too keep boxes. I keep all my console boxes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or like statues, I keep the boxes for. It comes out of practicality. I just feel like I move a lot. I move almost every year when my lease is up or whatever.
Yeah,
I would like to not move a lot. But keeping the boxes is a habit from when I was a kid because living with my mom, we would move probably every 6 to 9 months.
Oh wow!
Just based on our life circumstances. And I learned quickly that if I wanted my N64 or whatever to stay in good condition, it was going to have to get protected during those moves.
Gotcha.
So I just kind of keep them just in case. Because I would if I owned a house, I would probably not keep my console boxes and stuff just because they're big and unwieldy.
I have all of them like in the shelf of one of my closets. Like half of that shelf is nothing but boxes, whether it be video game boxes or other electronics or anything like that.
I mean, you might actually be right. I might keep the boxes if I had a house anyway, because I would have a room. But an apartment room is so precious that I always feel silly holding on to these boxes. But I know when I move, like the PS5 has this stupid design where it's got these fins hanging over the side and stuff. And it's just you're basically asking for them to get snapped off, in a move box. So it's just smarter to keep the packaging and stuff. And
hey, speaking of the PS5, did you see that rumor floating around about the PS5 Pro and the PS5 Pro Slim?
I mean, they look so dumbed and fan-made that I didn't pay them any mind.
Yeah. I mean, the rumor is that there's actually dev kits out there, which I find hard to believe because, number one, it's really hard to get a regular PS5 right now, still 2 years after the thing released.
Yeah, PS5 Pro is an unnecessary expense on Sony's part, and what really made me question it was that all of the mock-ups were in black, and I'm like, well, everybody wants them in black, so it just screamed fan-made.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're all annoyed with the console being white.
A little bit, yeah. Although, once it's on my shelf, I just really don't care. I don't even really look at it anymore, even though it's right in front of me.
Right.
I just never notice. But
I use discs, so I guess I see it a lot more.
That's true. Do you stand it up? I don't remember.
No, it's horizontal.
Yeah.
It's already hideous horizontal, but it gets even uglier vertical.
Yeah.
I think it was vertical, it would be distractingly hideous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does look weird.
It's an ugly piece of tech.
Next question comes from Christy Vasquez Flores, our own. You'll hear her on later Patreon episodes. She says, the Go Crew cast members are the main characters in the next Final Fantasy. What's the plot? What are the strengths and powers of each character? And is the gameplay like the earlier games or the 7 remake? Could they collectively do this, you think? You and me both? Since it's just you and I?
I think so. Yeah, it's much less fun with just two of us.
Okay, so we're going to have an RPG with just you and I?
No, I'm just saying, like, it's the conversation is a little less exciting,
yeah.
I imagine, with just you and I.
Well, how about we do this? We'll do. I assume you're gonna want to create Alyssa's character, and I'll create CB's character.
Sure.
Okay, let's do it.
I don't care.
What's your character going to be like?
Oh man, I don't know. A thief, I guess. Thief character. That's who I usually play as in these kind of games or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Zidane was a thief.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a thief class.
All right. Mine's gonna be the same thing I do in most games, which is a ranged archer type character, like a ranger or a something like that. And I would make it, very similar to my D&D character. I chose a very quiet character because this is the first time I ever played Dungeons and Dragons, and I had no idea what to do, so I just wrote my character as a guy that speaks very little because I was afraid to speak up and be part of it. So I just kind of wanted to stand in the background and watch and learn.
Sure, that makes sense.
And I feel like my character would be like that, which doesn't sound super interesting, but I'm always intrigued in JRPGs by characters that speak very, very little, and
like Orin in Final Fantasy X.
I did not play that.
Or Shadow in Final
Shadow
Fantasy
is the one I was thinking of. More specifically, like he just does stuff by his actions more than words. I'm always fascinated by
pretty much just Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe.
Okay. Yeah.
No. There you go. So Archer. Well, that means so far our party is not going to do well in a boss fight because we're not taking a lot of damage.
Right. Which is where CB comes in, who is going to be. You know what? He's going to be a bard, just like an orc, 7-foot bard orc.
Bard?
Yeah.
Dude, our party is in trouble.
No. You understand? He's a tank in our D&D campaign.
Is he a bard as well, though?
Yeah.
Aren't bards like singing minstrels that do like buffs and stuff?
Mm-hmm. But he's written this character in a way that makes him. He's a beefy boy.
Right, which I guess leaves Alyssa as our mage.
Yes.
A lot of magic spells getting flung out, and
well, no, because his bard in our campaign is very magic heavy.
Okay.
So
well, then she's got to be our fighter. Then
there you go.
She's gonna be the one carrying the giant sword.
I like it.
We need a cloud.
Mm-hmm. What's our story going to be?
Well, it's hard not to just say Bachelor Road Trip, because what a great premise that was.
So, like Final Fantasy 15, but with us?
I just think that was such a fun idea for, a storyline.
Yeah.
But the problem with that, I feel
like in that one, they still had something, they were doing it for a reason, right? It wasn't like they just hopped in the car like they were doing a road trip. I like the idea of ours being an actual, like, we're just going to hang out and then stuff happens later.
Right, like the first 2 hours of Final Fantasy 15 before stuff goes bad.
Right.
Yeah, man, I think we're just on a road trip.
Yeah.
And we just happen to save the world at the end of it.
I like it. Strengths and powers, we talked about that a little bit, yeah.
The gameplay, I would want it to be traditional, turn-based.
I would too. Would you want it sprite-based, or would you want it like 3D rendered?
I'm imagining us as sprites. in my
too.
head. Yeah, so I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have a lot of nostalgia for like PS1 era JRPGs, but something about the Go cast just screams 16-bit RPG.
I agree. I was thinking the exact same thing, man.
I think we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
There you go. That's our game.
I like it.
It would be Final Fantasy Gaiden 17. Thomas Bex asks over on Discord, you are assembling the Avengers of video gaming. What 6 video game characters would make it into the team?
Ooh. Kratos.
That's a good one.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say Nero from Devil May Cry.
Okay.
I was gonna say Dante, but I want those quippy one-liners that he was so good for.
Yeah.
You know, marshmallows and all of that.
I'm gonna say
There's-
Samus.
Okay. Get Samus. So I'm probably gonna throw Master Chief in with her.
Yep, that's got to be in there.
He's a no-brainer. He's
But
gonna
that's
rough some stuff up.
That's enough sci-fi though, probably. Right?
Well, and they're both ranged fighters as well.
Right.
Although they're both good in it. They're both good close up or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Especially
So-
with the latest Metroid game where she had the counter attack whoosh thing.
Right, yeah, true. Or Metroid Other M, of course, everybody's favorite Metroid.
We need to go back to that one for a retro outsider. I need
So
to
if
play
we're
that game
going
again.
traditional Avengers, we have 2 more slots to fill up.
All right, so like who have we matched up like with the Avengers so far? Like I would like assume Samus would be like a Black Widow. Kratos would be a Hulk.
Kratos is definitely our Hulk.
Yeah.
Definitely. Chief would be our Iron Man then,
Chief would be our Iron Man, yeah. And who would Nero be? Hawkeye?
I mean, Hawkeye's pretty fast. He would actually probably be more of a Black Widow because she gets in there and does a lot of martial arts and stuff.
Okay.
And then you would make Samus your Hawkeye because she's a ranged fighter.
Okay. So that leaves us
Captain America and Thor.
Okay. So we need a Captain America and a Thor.
Yeah, we need the do-gooder.
I was gonna say
sure.
the one that won't swear, so not Nathan Drake.
Well, what's Nate gonna do out there? Get squashed?
Yeah, right. With this crew.
I'm trying to think of somebody with like some magical prowess to play that Thor sort of role. But I don't really know a lot of main characters who fit that bill.
I mean, you could go with like anybody, like any Final Fantasy character. I mean, you could put like a
Terra,
Cloud or a Terra. Yeah.
Lightning.
Oh, Terra would be good.
I think Terra. It's kind of a deep cut for a video game Avengers, but I guess Nero's kind of is too. Yeah, let's go with Terra.
All
As
right.
Thor. She's very cool.
I like
So
that
you
actually. I like Terra as Thor.
And you just have her Captain America.
Would you think that Captain America would be the easy, like that would be the first one we think of? That or Iron Man?
There's not a lot of like good guy
Do-gooders.
main characters in games, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I'm looking at my shelf right now. I'm like, War from Darksiders? I mean, he's kind of a do-gooder.
Or from Darksiders. But
What
not
about BJ Blazkowicz from Wolfenstein? He's an all-American man.
I mean, that might be it, man. Because he's like pretty much indestructible.
Right, as especially Wolfenstein 2 proved.
Yeah. Oh
And he
man.
is-
Oh man.
and nobody leaves in America more than BJ Blazkowicz.
All right, so let's run through it one more time. Captain America is going to be BJ Blazkowicz.
BJ. All right.
Kratos is going to be our Hulk.
Right.
Master Chief is going to be our Iron Man.
Definitely.
Samus is going to be our Hawkeye.
Okay.
Nero is going to be our Black Widow.
And then Terra's a Thor.
Terra's going to be our Thor.
Yeah.
I think that's solid.
I think that's really good. Yeah, I feel sad leaving Doom Guy out, but he and Master Chief are, they're kind of the same class there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it would make a stronger team to swap him out with somebody, but I like I feel like we need the diversity.
I like the paralleling.
Like I was a little worried about Master Chief and Samus both being in there because they're both like
Fair enough.
sci-fi. I feel
And
like
then
putting
the
Doom Guy in there would be like half the team would be sci-fi.
And then Nick Fury is just Mario. The OG. The OG.
Oh my god! I'm picturing like the scene where Where Master Chief walks in and Mario just turns around with an eye patch on.
It just goes, wahoo!
No, because it's got to be Chris Pratt's voice now, right?
Oh, no. Don't say that. That's not very nice.
All right, so David Newman says, what do you guys think is the most detrimental to modern gaming? Microtransactions, unfinished games at launch, or obsession with open world? Which is most detrimental?
Of those three, boy. Well, it seems like unfinished games at launch actually don't matter at all. They always just sell well anyway, and then the narrative 6 months later is like, oh my god, what a comeback story. They really stuck with it. So obviously gamers don't care about unfinished games. They just say they do loudly and then buy it anyway.
Plus, on top of that, unfinished games at launch, I'm talking about, No Man's Sky and those kinds of things.
Cyberpunk, which is getting praised for its next gen update. And
yep.
It's so.
I feel like it matters in the moment, and then in the long run, it never does. I
mean, but I don't know if it does because all of those games sell like gangbusters,
right?
So I don't know if it does matter,
right?
But and microtransactions are definitely frustrating. But I really feel so for me, David. I would say it's the obsession with the open world because it speaks to the larger problem of everybody chasing each other's trends, right? Like everybody has to be open world because the publishers have it in their mind. If you're not open world, you're not going to sell, and it's much like Battle Royale. You're like, we got to get a Battle Royale out there. And it's like, instead of hunkering down on your own creativity and betting big on yourself, you're chasing the trends of other studios.
I actually answered this when he initially posed this question in like our general gaming chat on Discord. And I'm going to hold to my answer I said there, which I think microtransactions are the most detrimental because I fear the future of this hobby in terms of the younger generation is so obsessed with, the microtransaction aspect of it, especially with Fortnite.
Man, that's a good point. I don't interact with young people very often, so I guess because me as an older person and everybody I know just scoff at them and move on.
Right. But that's all. Kids are still just. It's all Fortnite and Minecraft and Roblox, which are all. I guess Minecraft isn't as much, but. It's all about, like, what can I get to show off to everybody that I've got this thing or that I've got this dance or whatever. I never... Oh, and Smash Brothers. They love Smash Brothers and Mario Kart because I have that in my classroom.
Sure.
Kids are really good at Smash Brothers, by the way. Like,
I really got to get Smash Brothers.
Anyway, but I fear about that because I don't hear any kids talking about, I played this awesome game with this really great story, or... These mechanics were really awesome. It's all about like what they can have to show off to their friends. Or I need V-Bucks. Or I need Robux. Like it's all about these kinds of things. And that's going to take over. And we're going to be like... You remember that scene in Back to the Future 2? When he goes to the Cafe 80s and plays Wild Gunman. And Elijah Wood and whatever other kid that's there says, you get to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy. That's going to be us where... You mean you don't have anything you don't play online with people? You don't like have any cosmetics?
You can't play as Venom?
Right.
What's the point of this game?
Right. So to me, microtransactions are more damaging or detrimental because that's become the forefront. Not only that, it's become the greedy way to do games instead of just selling a product that you can purchase or purchase a license, I guess is the better way to say that. But
no, I mean that's a very compelling argument.
Yeah,
I think you swayed me.
I did. Oh my god, that never happens.
Yeah. Well, because I'm also thinking about because the microtransactions lead to all these like weird corporate crossovers in every game. Like Attack on Titan and Call of Duty, and it's just like, dude, this sucks. It just sucks. Why can't stuff be stuff?
I agree.
But Kevin Honingford writes in and asks, consider a few of your favorite games. Who or what is the playable character you disliked most? And he's got a couple other questions. We should probably tackle them one-on-one here.
Okay. Playable character you dislike the most.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a game, because if I don't like the main character, it's unlikely I'm going to continue to play your game.
That's kind of how I feel. Although I will say that Rel recently played Rise of the Rise of the Third Power, that JRPG, that 16-bit looking JRPG. He loved the game, but he said he just hated the character. He said the character was just like an a-hole to everybody that he talked to, just for the sake of being an a-hole.
See, and I'm all for, like, there are times, like, during The Last of Us Part 2 where I did not like either of the characters you play at, but it felt like that was the point.
That was the point, and plus, that game was all about perspective, right? That was a game. That game was a lesson in empathy, I think is the way that I described it. It was teaching you how to understand why someone would be acting like an a-hole. And they kind of both deserved to act that way.
Yes, right. They're both there's you don't have to, you kill because you think you're right.
But I'm with you. Like I just don't know a whole lot of characters that I dislike. I mean, I could give you movie, like anti-heroes that I just don't like.
I didn't like Jake Mueller in Resident Evil 6. He's one of the 3 campaigns.
Okay. I mean, that probably has something to do with the game was terrible as well.
That doesn't help anything. That game sucked. I played the whole thing.
You poor soul.
I don't know why. I don't know. I played it in co-op, which I made it less insufferable. Boy, that game's not good.
Okay. This might be cheating, but Bowser in Super Mario RPG?
But isn't he fun?
He was fun, but it just was like everything was Mario's fault, or everything was, I don't know. As a kid, I was like, dude, we're fighting together. Let's just be nice.
Anytime I have to play as Wario, because I don't like Wario.
I don't like Wario either.
Yeah, I have some like weird adoration for Waluigi, which I guess the rest of the internet does too.
Mm-hmm.
Wario just sucks.
Yeah, I agree. Remember how cool it was though when Super Mario Land 2 came out? That game was so much fun when I was a kid.
Yeah, no, that game's still great. I would assume, anyway, I guess. We'll never know because Nintendo will never let us play it on modern hardware.
Right. Oh man, could you imagine if we could go back and play Game Boy games on a Switch?
Wouldn't that be insane? You think you could easily do it because you had GBA games on the Wii U.
Right. But I mean, just like because remember when the Game Boy Advance came out and it was backlit and you didn't have to like worry about like, imagine being able to play those games just, that would be great amazing.
Point. Well, then the Switch is also portable, so you got that. You have that restoration.
Yeah.
Come on.
So I feel like I need to come up with a better answer than Bowser though, because that's just.
I'm trying to think of like because I really hate when a character like goes out of their way not to kill people. I guess. But
wait, didn't you really hate Booker, or did you just not like where Booker ended up? Because he was likable up until things happened, right?
Yeah, no, it was Comstock I didn't like. I just thought Comstock was a poor villain.
Oh, okay.
Especially, compared to Andrew Ryan, of course.
He was a lot more interesting, for sure.
Yeah, but it would appear that we really don't have an answer to this question.
Yeah, sorry, Kevin. I'm sure I will hear of that.
But it's a question that I find intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have the main character of the game, Amy. I hated her.
Again, a game that you didn't like in general.
Well, but it was so bad it was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I hate oh man, I can't remember his name, so that's not good. But the guy you play as in Silent Hill 2, he's definitely unlikable.
Not Mason. Mason was the first one.
Right. Jake, maybe? Anyway.
Well, let's move on. Sorry, Kevin. I'll do better.
NPC you dislike the most.
I think that one's easy for me.
Oh, yeah?
Cypher from Final Fantasy VIII.
What?
I mean, in terms of just like what a jerk he was. I just hate. I mean, he was a cool looking character, but he was just doing things for the sake of being a jerk. Not like I didn't really feel like he had any good motive.
Yeah, I found him a sad and tragic character.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. But also, I don't know. I replayed it only a couple years ago.
It's been a while for me. I never finished it. Man, I can't think of another NPC that I liked less than him.
Okay.
He just felt like a bully, and like it was like he would come at Squall for why? Like Squall was a quiet guy that never did anything. Like he was so he like actively avoided talking to people. So why did Cypher have it out for him?
I think because Squall was a bit of the favorite, and Cypher had this obsession with being a hero and a knight, and like he was obsessed with this movie when he was a kid about being a knight to a sorceress, because sorceresses used to be a big deal in Final Fantasy, so that's why he joins with Ultimecia and stuff. I don't know. He's an interesting character to me.
Okay.
Or NPC you dislike the most? Claptrap, man. Or honestly, I mean, Claptrap or Tiny Tina, one of the two.
You know, you can play as Claptrap in Borderlands 3.
Pre-sequel. Oh, Borderlands 3.
Mm-hmm.
Even worse.
And you can play as... No, you don't play as Tiny Tina in the new Tiny Tina game. She's like the DM, basically.
Right.
So...
Yeah, which sucks because I think that game would otherwise look interesting, but I can't stand Tiny Tina. So it's honestly probably Tiny Tina. I think she might be the worst character I've ever encountered in any video game.
I like Tiny Tina.
I know. Then enemy you dislike the most. I guess so. Cypher would, or like a bad villain.
I mean, I already said him for NPC. Maybe I should have him as my enemy that I dislike the most, and I need to come up with a different NPC.
Yeah, see, I don't know. Andros? I don't know. Like, I think video games have an overall villain problem that, you know, if you're not playing an RPG, the villain is like so irrelevant.
Andros just didn't make any sense. Like what was his motivation? It didn't even seem like he wanted to dominate.
No, he just shows up in the last 5 minutes of every Star Fox and has this big dumb monkey hands and tries to slap you around. He's so annoying. He's got no character at all. In a franchise where I weirdly am into it because of the characters, like he's such a sticking point of dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I bet he's even in that friggin' Starlink game somehow.
Probably. All right. Next question comes from Drew Ross, who says, with the Batman hitting theaters, which comic book character that has already appeared on the big screen do you think has not been given his or her true potential to moviegoers? I think you're going to answer this question better than I will, because
I think Green Lantern.
Yeah, that's the easy one, and I don't know what makes that character so cool. So
yeah, I usually try to sum it up as the Green Lantern mythology is Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings with superheroes.
Okay.
It's I love it, the whole emotional spectrum and the different Lantern Corps, and you know, I think Hal Jordan is one of the most interesting characters in all of fiction, and I adore Green Lantern to death. You know, I have many Green Lantern memorabilia, and that movie was not a good representation. For one thing, they made Hal this reluctant coward type, which he's just not at all, which is very frustrating. And he's not smarmy like Ryan Reynolds either. Like, he makes a joke every now and again, but he's not Ryan Reynolds. And he's, you know, in that movie, he's like beat down in training. He's like, yeah, I'm not the right person. Like, flies back to Earth. Like, Hal would beat the training to prove, like, just to spite you, basically.
Okay.
And it's just a totally different character, and he's such a great center point of the Green Lantern mythology. And you know, all the Earth Lanterns have their benefits as well. It's just a cool mythology, and the idea of space cops is very cool, and it's great. The Jeff Johns Green Lantern run is one of the most incredible things ever, and you could just translate that to the screen and show everyone why it's so great. All
right. I know, like, all of my knowledge of comic book characters comes from the films, so I don't feel like I can adequately answer this question. I mean, the one I've got in my head is one that hasn't appeared on the big screen, so I feel like I can't say that, because I actually did read a Shadows of the Empire comic when I was a kid, a Dark Horse comic, and so I want to see Dash Rendar in a movie.
I'll see Dash Rendar on the screen.
Yeah, but he hasn't already appeared on the screen, although he's appeared in a video game. But that's really the only one that I can. I don't know if they've been given justice. You know what I mean?
As you say, you're not the right person.
No.
Is there any superhero movie you remember like disliking?
I really did not like Thor 2.
Yeah, that movie sucks.
I had a hard time going into even Thor 1. I mean, I liked it because you had the relatable Natalie Portman character, but by the time I got to 2, I just didn't care. And I didn't love Ragnarok a ton either.
I We were in a very small group of people because I did not like Ragnarok.
Okay. I was worried you were going to be like, what? That was great. I did not like Ragnarok.
I felt like it was weirdly trying to be a Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Yeah. Even the color schemes and stuff felt like it was.
Yeah, the old rock music and the Loki Loki, Thor, Valkyrie team and everything. It's just.
And then Jeff Goldblum with the painted face. Just,
yes,
yeah,
it
felt very
Guardians of the Galaxy.
So I'm sorry, Drew. I'm not very equipped to answer that question. Unfortunately, CB's not here to help us with that one. But
Spawn, I'll make your answer Spawn.
Okay, all right. I've heard that
Spawn,
movie was terrible.
It's not a good movie. He's not even like a super great. It's not a great comic book run either. But the character himself is compelling, and I think Todd McFarlane's idea, the creator of Spawn, his idea for a movie would be you would watch it from the mob's perspective, and Spawn would be basically the boogeyman knocking them off one by one.
Right.
That sounds awesome.
Wait, did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen come from a comic book?
It did. It did.
I think that would be my vote. How about that?
That's fair. That's a great comic and a terrible movie.
Yeah. Like I remember being all excited about that movie because I was big into Sean Connery when I was a kid, and that movie came out. I was like, "This is awful," but it's a cool concept. So
yeah, the movie is almost like shockingly bad.
Yeah. Okay. So that will be my answer.
All right.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Even though I've not read the comic, but I would like to see that revisited. There, I got one.
There you go. You know something.
I know something.
Speaking of comics, Comic Clout 19 writes in, with Remedy building their shared universe of games, Alan Wake, Quantum Break, Control, and every other universe seemingly invading Fortnite eventually, what developer would you be excited to see a new crossover between existing properties or retconned, done well of course, into a shared universe that hasn't already been hinted at?
Boy, I'm trying to wrap my head around what he's asking here. What developers would you be excited to see?
So I think he's asking because Alan Wake and Quantum Break were decidedly not in the same universe, and then Control, brought all three of them into the same universe. So that would be the retcon answer.
Okay.
Where you take something that was originally disconnected and now all of a sudden they're connected. But obviously between existing properties, I guess you would just force it in that way.
I mean, part of me always, and this is kind of an obvious answer, but part of me wished that Far Cry Primal was actually took place on one of the places that one of the other Far Cry games was. And I was
prehistoric era of it.
Yeah, I was hoping that at the end of Far Cry Primal, there was going to be this big reveal that, oh yeah, you're on the same island that Far Cry 3 took place on.
That's great.
Unless it was some hidden thing that I didn't find, but
no, I mean, I wouldn't know. An easy answer for me would be that 3D platforming All-Stars game that I was joking around with. That Xbox owns all the mascot platformers.
Mm-hmm. Where
you have Banjo, Spyro, and Crash team up.
Oh yeah.
I think that would be great. I would really, really love if Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and Sly Cooper and his gang teamed up for a game.
Like a multiverse type of situation, or they actually all exist in the same universe? And we didn't know it this entire time.
I mean, I guess that is technically possible because Ratchet and Clank goes from planet to planet.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that would be fun. And then he goes scoops up the Jak and Daxter from their planet,
mm-hmm.
and then they all go over to Sly Cooper's town or whatever. I just really want those teams together in a 3D platformer, PlayStation budgeted, quality assured.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that on a previous episode, and we were all kind of like, yeah, that would be just pretty awesome.
It just seems so obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Especially you don't know what to do with these franchises, just give them to Insomniac. Let them make a 3D platform with the whole crew.
Mm-hmm.
That would be awesome.
As you're talking about that, I'm just trying to come up with something else, and I keep wanting Portal to be in another universe, but I don't know what, because you know how most of Portal, or actually all of Portal, takes place in these test chambers, and there's nothing outside of it. So part of me wants there to be a crossover between that and Fallout, where maybe in Fallout you come across a vault that happens to be test
Aperture
chambers.
Science.
Yeah, it's Aperture
cool.
Science, and then you come to find out that Shell has been doing these portal chambers deep underground, and you actually get to release her or something, or you're there when she emerges at the end of Portal of end of Portal 2.
That'd be kind of fun.
I think that'd be fun.
I'm not opposed to that. That's cool.
So, all right. Last question comes from J Nalta 2. This one came in at right at the end of the wire. With the announcement of a new Pokemon game, 2 versions, a new Kirby, a new Metroid, and an assumed announcement for Breath of the Wild 2 at some point, what Nintendo series or character should get a modernized or improved game?
Star Fox.
I'm not going to get mad at that.
Star Fox hasn't had I did not play Star Fox Zero, but by all accounts, the control scheme made it pretty insufferable. But even without that, it wasn't mostly just a remake of the 64 game anyway.
It was, but it was not just like a coat of paint remake. It was a whole from the ground up game.
I want a modern Star Fox, a lot of on rail section, but also some on foot stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you kind of mix the dinosaur. I'm talking like mixed Dinosaur Planet adventuring, but with a lot of the flying.
Right.
Instead of those half-assed flight levels of Dinosaur Planet, you kind of cut the difference, and you just see the Star Fox team go on a Star Fox mission, and you know maybe Fox and Falco go for a ground mission on a planet together or something like that, and they're butting heads the whole time. And I think there's a lot of promise with that property, and Nintendo is not realizing it.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Can I choose a character that is from a game that was exclusive to Nintendo, but was not necessarily created by Nintendo?
Is Bayonetta?
No. Bayonetta was on Xbox and stuff too.
But not the last two. Or not 2 and 3.
No, that's not where I was going. I was going to say Beautiful Joe.
Well, he was on PS2.
He was?
Yeah.
Oh, well, shut my mouth then. I thought that was a PlayStation.
I mean, it was like a year and a half later or whatever. But yeah.
Oh, is that why I wasn't thinking about it?
Yeah, well, I think the Capcom 5 exclusives, the only one that remained exclusive was PNO 3.
Okay. I'm trying to think of what other properties. He hit all the big ones. I mean, Zelda. I mean, the last Mario game we had was Odyssey.
Another Mother game.
But was that made by Nintendo?
Yeah, it's a Nintendo.
Okay. Yeah, that gets my vote then. Like a new
Earthbound 2.
Another JRPG, but you know, little modern look to it, but still that just quirky, goofy music. Some of those iconic like the Starman, stuff like that. That's what I would want. And I don't want the 3D models and all that kind of stuff. You want
the sprites.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that'd be great.
That would be.
Of course, Ness was in the first Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Where it was only Nintendo characters.
What's funny is like watching my students play Smash, and I keep seeing the boards because there's holy cow, is there a lot of boards, or what do you call them, like
levels,
arenas,
stages,
and so many of them are like, hey, that's old school Donkey Kong, that's old school Punch Out, like these are all games that I would love to share with you guys, but I can't connect my Switch to the internet to do the NES library. I would love to show them like some of those old school games.
Yeah, there's one of the Smashes had a Donkey Kong level where the DK rap was playing in the background. It was awesome.
At the beginning of Donkey Kong Country, you mean?
No, I'm talking about like DK. Donkey Kong is here.
Oh, I don't know.
If you know the words, you can join in too. You have to know the DK rap for Donkey Kong Country 64?
No, I didn't play Donkey Kong 64.
Boy, am I about to send you a YouTube link that'll change your life.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, man.
Well, that's it for the questions. Thank you to everybody that wrote in. I always love Community Question Week, and I was glad I could do that with Zach this week. It was a lot of fun. That's going to do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. Zach, do you have any parting words or recommendations for our listeners before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, the coldest take in the world would be like, hey, the Batman is very good.
Yeah, right?
So no, not really, man. Read comics, everybody.
Read comics?
You know what? I do have a recommendation. I started reading this manga called Gantz, which I know it came out in the early 2000s. And it's definitely not for the faint of heart, which tends to be a trend with me in Japanese media. But it is awesome. It is really cool. It's this interesting thing. Like, if you die, you get a chance basically to live again, but you have to play in these weird games where you have to hunt down these alien life forms.
Oh.
And
So is it the Gulag, but sci-fi?
I don't really know what Gulag is.
Oh.
But the series is not afraid to kill off main characters. Like, main characters die often.
Nice.
And in the Game of Thrones way, where they'll just die mid-character arc and stuff, too. It's just very unconventional writing in that way. But it makes it endlessly compelling to read. And I've read over half of the entire run already, and I've only been reading it for like a week. It's utterly phenomenal. So if you're into that, if you can handle tougher subject matter, if you can handle a character who is not going to be likable for most of the run, but it's because of a longer journey, it's highly recommended.
All right. I've got two, but I promise they'll be quick. We are recording this on International Women's Day, and I saw a post. Someone said, come up with a movie that you feel is underrated, that was directed by a woman, that you think people should check out. And my friend of mine, Steve, reminded me of the 1999 film Ravenous, starring Guy Pearce, Robert Carlyle, and David Arquette, which was directed by Antonia Bird. If you have not seen Ravenous, don't even look it up. Just watch that movie. That is you gotta like horror movies, I guess. I should preface that. That is a interesting, unique film that I feel like you should check out. So that's my first one. My second one.
I had a vote for a movie directed by women that everybody should watch.
Oh, sure.
The Matrix.
There you go. That works.
Everybody should watch The Matrix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an easy one to recommend. I mean,
and The Matrix Revolutions.
The way the post was worded was, a film that was directed by a woman that, is underrated. I don't know if I would call The Matrix.
So Matrix 2 and 3.
All right.
People don't understand.
The second thing I'm going to mention that's not at all video game related is, I know this is going to sound self-serving because of the profession that I'm in, but I would like to challenge everybody to think of a teacher that inspired you at some point in your life, and get in touch with them and let them know that you appreciated what they did. And I say this because I got a postcard in the mail from a former student today that I had about 3 or 4 years ago. That and it's kind of relevant to the podcast because he actually said in the podcast, or in the postcard, he said, "Thank you for making a podcast that I can listen to when I'm sad," which was just kind of heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time. Like, whenever he gets bummed out about something, he comes and listens to us talk about video games because he loves video games, and I just thought that was very cool. So shout out to Zach. He's got a pretty cool name, but he spells his with an H. So
not that cool.
So Zach was a great kid in my class, and he's since moved away. But it was really cool getting a random postcard from him, and I actually wrote him back today. So looking forward to corresponding. I love corresponding with old students. But yeah, as a teacher, and the reason I'm bringing this up is I can tell you, as a teacher, it means way more to me to hear from former students like that than I can describe. So think of someone that taught you when you're growing up that really meant a lot to you or made an impact on you, and consider reaching out to them, tracking them down somehow, and just, hey, just wanted to say thanks and really appreciated what you did, because it means the world and makes all of the hell that we go through sometimes as teachers all worth it. So a little bit of a challenge there. Zach, thanks so much, man, for joining us and being here. It's good to have you back. It's always a pleasure chatting with you, and it's amazing that we can talk as long as we do. It's just the two of us, and I absolutely love it. So, and everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. The Gaming Outsider is produced by Nate Lucas, and all the music you hear is written and performed by Grant Henry of Stemage and Metroid Metal. His website, again, is stemagemusic.com, and he's got a brand new track that he released on Bandcamp this week, so you will want to check that out. Also, please be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. Our address is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. Until next week, I'm Scott Clark with Zach Parkerson, and we are The Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you.